If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is for you. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
You're listening to Comics with Kenobi.
It's issue number 20, and just as James Cameron says, we are in no way retrenching anything. So who cares what Cameron says? Hi, how are you?
Geek me all knowing box sets stay open May 4th. I'm hoping Luke gonna be hot as before, 'cause red looks hardcore and I don't want Sith running the galaxy.
Yeah, that was a weird statement for him to come out with, I thought. But I think if anybody has ever read the scripts for Titanic or Avatar, I think his opinion makes perfect sense. I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's fine. The way I see it, I just thought it was, what I want to know more is about the person who interviewed him. From what I can get, apparently she's just like fresh out of journalism school or something, or just fresh out of college. And it was just, this interview just she just posted it on YouTube. And it's, but here's the thing, it's a great interview. And I know interviews. I've conducted hundreds, if not thousands of them myself. But that was a really solid interview. I mean, you can agree or disagree with with what he said about The Force Awakens and comparing it and contrasting it versus the George Lucas made films. But still, what a great interview and so intriguing. Yeah,
we'll very compelling, and certainly got people talking. So kudos to the interviewer.
Yeah. So. Woot woot.
Well, we have a jam-packed issue this month. We have Poe Dameron number 3 that we're going to talk about. Then we're going to switch to Han Solo number 1.
Woohoo!
Then we're going to talk about the first issue of The Force Awakens adaptation. Then we're going to talk issue 20 of Star Wars. Then we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. And Matt secured a special interview for us. Tell us a little bit about our guest that we have.
Well, we're going to be talking to Tom Akel, who is oversees content for Line Webtoon. And if you've been reading Coffee with Kenobi's comics coverage, you'll know that Line Webtoon made a big splash late last year because it brought over an English language version or translation, if you will, of the original trilogy as done in South Korea as a digital comic. And it's initially it just this ran in South Korea, and there were no plans to translate it into any other language. And this was running, I think, probably 6 months before The Force Awakens was going to be released. So it was helping engender and spark more interest in the Star Wars saga, in South Korea, and I guess for probably a very select few of people in North Korea who had access to it, which is again a very scant few, I would imagine, and. It proved to be very popular. A lot of people who don't know how to speak or read Korean were just scrolling through it to look at it, and myself included. And then of course they decided, let's do this in English. There's a demand, and Line Webtoon has it. And I think it came out every Thursday and Sunday. It's complete now. It's run its course, and Tom had great fun talking about how they got that and how they did it, and some chance meetings. And we also learned a lot about his personal history of being a Star Wars fan, including some pretty awesome cosplay. And apparently you guys may have been at the same place at the same time and, clearly didn't know about it.
Small world, small world.
Indeed.
That will be after our commercial break to hear Dan and Corey espouse about the Topps trading card app. And then we'll also end the show with a discussion of the 2 latest issues of Darth Vader, issues number 21 and 22. And how many issues do we have left, Matt, in that? Is it?
We're going to have a total of 3 because it ends with 25. So, no, excuse me. Yeah, 3. Well, yeah, 23, 24, and 25.
Yeah, that's 3, if my math is correct, and it rarely is. So, since we do have so much to talk about, let's just dive right in. We're Poe Dameron number 3. We've both been very excited about this book and have really enjoyed the first 2 issues. I'm not sure we're going to have as many good things to say about this one based on our conversation off mic about it.
Well, you can't make a comics omelet without cracking a few eggs.
But I only saw one egg crack. Was there another egg that I missed?
Well, I never saw the other egg, and and I think clearly this issue of Poe Dameron, people have always maintained that look, Star Wars is not science fiction, it's science fantasy, and you know what? Nowhere is this more evident and true than this issue of the Poe Dameron comic book.
Well, so,
I was just like, wait a minute, where did the kaiju come from? Is there some sort of rift on the comet? So,
and what was it? We had a great tweet about that. Somebody, because they almost spoiled it for me. It said, I'm in the middle of a Poe Dameron comic, trying to read a Poe Dameron comic, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle of Godzilla versus Mothra.
Yeah, which was great. I was like, yeah, you nailed it. So
outstanding. So for those who haven't read it or who read it and have chosen to forget it, the book opens with the stormtroopers are still barbecuing the eggs or the egg rather. And Terex, or Agent Terex, if you please, as he says, wants the info that Poe Dameron has about where they're going to find the information about Luke Skywalker. So we got the John Waters character, who I love. I just love this character. He's so cool.
It's just, I'm so glad that I think we're going to be seeing more of this guy.
I hope so.
And hopefully in not just this series. I really want this guy to be in the Force, or into episode 8.
Oh, that would be great.
I would really love to see him in that. So,
and they could just cast John Waters and be done with it.
There you
go. He's still with us, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, for some reason, I had in my head that he had passed on. But so he and Poe are having a nice back and forth, and I like the dialogue here. He tells him, your title should be thief, bandit, crook, scoundrel, which I'm sure Poe loves because he is the Han Solo of this generation. And he says, I'm here to get the information that was bought and paid for. I'm here to get back. That's what I want. He says, we all want things, pal. Poe does, which is great. I can just hear Oscar Isaac saying that. And Terex mentions the starfighters, and then we cut to the dogfight that's going on upstairs. And
Matt, what a dogfight it is. I love the dialogue between the pilots.
Yes. It really is great. Again, the dialogue, this first half of the book is great. Anytime we're dealing with the human or humanoid characters, I should say, can you consider aliens humanoid if they're bipedal?
Don't be a speciesist.
I'm not trying to. I'm trying to be inclusive. I'm trying to call them all humanoids. We're all.
I think you can call them humanoids.
So, okay. Anytime we're dealing with those characters, it's crackling. It's a lot of fun. I love it. The problem is when we cut back to the underground, Terex finally shuts up. And my question is, could he bring Poe up on charges in a New Republic court if he is part of the First Order?
I think maybe so, because you have to remember the First Order, if memory serves, based on my knowledge, and this is before obviously Hosnian Prime has been destroyed as it was.
Right.
I kind of get the impression that the First Order, they know they exist. The New Republic does, and it's not like they're doing anything illegal that they're aware of, or at least that they can prove. So so technically, I guess they're, even though they don't like the New Republic, I guess they are afforded citizenship into the New Republic.
So they're like the Westboro Baptist Church of the galaxy far, far away.
Except with a lot of really advanced scientific weaponry.
Right.
So.
And that's as far as we'll get politically. So the egg starts cracking. The flamethrowers have warmed it up enough that it starts to cracking, and it reveals. At first, I thought it was John Jones or Abe Sapien.
I was thinking it was going to be something else. Because you see this creature, getting up, and the way that little inset panel looks, you're not aware of the size and scope of the creature. You kind of, your first blush is think, it's a human being or a humanoid or a human, something a humanesque.
He looks like he's about, I would say, probably about 12 feet tall in this first shot.
But in that first, almost 3/4 page shot, that's the first time you see him standing up. If you look at that little inset, you don't really have any, because you don't really have any, yardstick for how tall he is.
Yeah,
or how
not
big
as much of a scale.
Because the perspective. I'm looking at that thinking the perspective of look, he's there, he is in the foreground, and there's the cliffside in the background, but just the way the perspective is, that he kind of looks normal, and then all of a sudden it banks to I guess not the prophet, but maybe the caretaker or the equivalent. We welcome you, O Savior unborn. We are the Kresh, your loyal servants and protectors these many generations, and nothing, just
He just continues to stare. Yes.
and of course Poe takes advantage of the situation. Just, let's let's do this, and then she is still going, talking to this guy, and he's just kind of staring blankly, and it's like,
Yeah. Then he just attacks.
yeah, it's like this sort of this Beavis cry. So,
Right.
then boom, next thing it's and of course, what's our guy do? It's the perfect retort.
So much for saviors.
That was so smug. I loved it. That was perfect.
Well, then I love that Poe tries to sucker punch him and gets schooled, or does he?
No, definitely not. But this is clearly a match between two equals. Although Poe does get the upper hand by, feigning to have been sort of had the wind knocked out of him, but having used that opportunity to steal his gun.
Right. So. He's got Terex's gun. That's one thing I couldn't tell to begin with. I couldn't, because he gets something. He gets the gun from BB-8. So he knocked it out and BB-8 grabbed it.
That's what I think happened.
Okay.
So that's if you notice, I don't think we had any sort of balloon showing the sound of a gun falling onto the ground. So.
No, we didn't. So. Oh well.
And then we go right back to our aerial dogfight. Because they're engaging each other, and you see this amazingly good flying. And again, this dialogue is so good, and these exploits by Jess.
She threads that needle, but then gets toasted.
But I think Jess is going to be here for a while. So, but at least it's good to see that these characters, though, are not immune to everything.
Right.
I don't want any of them to die. And I think so far the only one we know who is going to die is Eloasti. Right. So, but I love seeing them all here. So
when Wexley starts to go all emo, telling him, I want you guys to know, in case I don't get the chance to say this back at the base, we've had what we've had over the last few months. Kara says, "You'll tell me back at the base. You're going to tell me back at the base, Wexley. You're going to tell me back at the base." So basically telling him, you're not going to die out here. I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah, and clearly there's there's a little something more than just camaraderie between the two of them.
Right.
So, which is even better.
So we cut back to downstairs, and I have in my notes, what is this thing, and what's that other thing? Where did it come from? What's going on? I have no idea what's happening here. This thing seems to be getting bigger, and the stormtroopers are shooting at it, and Poe and Terex are having their standoff.
And then she's about to get eaten, and then all of a sudden, literally out of nowhere...
Yeah, the demon from Night on Bald Mountain from the end of Fantasia shows up and sucker punches him. Seriously, where did it come from?
I don't know.
Were they both in the egg?
I think that perhaps they were both in the egg, and they are a manifestation of the light and the dark side of the Force.
Is this
perhaps
like the Mortis trilogy all over again?
It might be. It could be. But this is just so weird. This is very... This is the fantasy part of the space fantasy.
But if they're the light and the dark side of the Force, if they're the light and the dark side of the Force, why did the one who looks lighter try to eat everybody?
Maybe it's the ambiguity. Maybe the good guys do wear black.
I think it was just a poorly thought out story.
No. Charles Soule is messing with us. What if it's? Oh my gosh, we've been looking at the entire Star Wars saga all wrong. The Skywalker family isn't heroic. It's going to destroy the galaxy.
Well, that's how you bring balance to the Force. You get rid of everybody.
And Palpy, they're agents of good. Everything I've known is a lie. No, I think it was just poor planning.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm not the only one who was confused by this. I have no. It's not spelled out.
A lot of people were confused by this because it sort of came out like, what? Really? Come on, you got to be kidding me. Well, I do it. So, if you look on the social networks where people being sociable were talking about this book, and a lot of them were, they all loved it. They thought it was great, but they were just all, what? So it's just weird.
Well, on this same page,
here's the thing though. It didn't take my interest away from the book.
It kind of did mine. I'm not going to lie. Now, the stuff between Poe and Terex is great, although Terex does something on this same page, on its digital page 14, that may be unforgivable. He kicks BB-8.
That's like kicking somebody's dog. You don't. It is.
It's exactly what it is. And he says, "You're idiot." He calls him an idiot droid. And BB-8 ain't having any of it.
No, he's not. BB-8 is a very feisty droid, and that's one of the things I like about BB-8 is he's got like as Christopher Walker says, he's got pizzazz. So,
but I do like the interplay between Poe and Terex as they're fighting. Terex monologues as he wrestles the gun away from Poe, and Poe just keeps on being a smart aleck about it all.
You know who would make a great Terex in the movie?
Who's that?
Mark Smith.
Mark Smith.
The guy who played Sinestro in the Green Lantern movie?
Mark Strong.
Mark Strong, sorry. Yeah,
yes. As soon as you said Mark Smith, I thought, I wonder if he means Mark Strong.
I did. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's okay. Well, I know a guy named Mark Smith who's an actor, and I was about to say, wait a minute. Do you know Mark Smith?
Well, clearly because he was a Green Lantern.
He could do it too.
No,
but yeah, you're right. Mark Strong would be. He would be a phenomenal choice because he's got the very commanding presence. Although it's
just the dialogue between he and Oscar Isaac. Oh my gosh, the internet would implode.
Yes, it would be great. Would be outstanding. And so the Beast fight breaks through to the surface. They fly up because they're winged as well. Oh, by the way, they can fly. Mm-hmm. They break through to the surface, and that allows
BB-8 to exact revenge.
Right. He zaps Terex, but and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Did they both hatch? We don't know.
I think perhaps maybe it was it's like an element of Peter Pan. This is his shadow, and it just sort of took form.
Maybe. Well, and if that's the case, fine. Explain it. Tell us that. Don't make us guess.
Well, look, dude, it was a big egg, so I guess they could have both been in there.
I don't know. I just think
like you said, where was the other one?
Right. It needs to be explained. It needs to be one line. There were two.
Yeah, no, Morty, you stay there on that side of the egg, and when you hatch, you go out the front. When I hatch, I'm going to teleport to another part of the rock, and I'm just going to show up. Okay, that's how it's going to work out. So, why? I'll tell you why. Because I'm the oldest. That's why. Even though we haven't been born yet. So. Sorry, I've been up a whole lot of hours.
So have I. But I like that when they crash through the surface, one of the pilots says, "What in the name of?" And then you get Poe. If you can hear me, heads up, something's headed your way. It's a little hard to describe.
And then you sort of pull back to the shot, and it's like, what? And there's no time for these guys in the air, these people in the air to react because they're trying to gun each other down.
Well, and again, it looks like they're just getting bigger and bigger.
They are, and then it does, and this tie runs into the wing of the white one, and
it gets obliterated.
Good Lord! And then all of a sudden, wow, they're really not messing around. He shot some sort of plasma through his chest, killing him. It looks like.
I thought it came out of his mouth like he was breathing fire, like laser.
No, the black one, the charcoal color.
Yeah, shoots it through the yeah.
So it's just wow.
Yeah, I don't know, and so.
I was like, wow, that escalated really fast.
Well, it escalated, and at the same time, it was very anticlimactic because it's build, and it's over.
That's true.
True. From there, we find out that Poe does know where Lore is, but he's in prison?
Apparently so. And why, we don't know. And of course, it stands to reason that he was a pretty well-traveled guy, but did they say which prison he was in? Was it a First Order prison or a New Republic prison?
That's what I can't figure out.
Because I can see the First Order because they're so arrogant and so full of themselves and full of itself that they would have probably built their own, stockade on wherever they're not. I guess maybe at this point it might be Starkiller Base, but I'm clearly they must have bases and forward operating posts in and around the parts of the galaxy. So, I could see them having their own sort of private prison.
Yeah, he just says it looks like we're going to prison. That's all he says. But I do, again, like the interplay between Terex and Poe here at the end, because he said, Terex says, you won't kill me, you would have done it already, and you can't take me prisoner. If you did, you would give the First Order clear justification to launch an attack on the New Republic. You haven't won. You simply lost in a somewhat creative fashion. And Poe responds with, you know what, man, you're sort of a drag. And I just love that. This is the Han Solo for this generation.
Very much so. And it's just... Again, it just gives us this glimpse, this look into the equilibrium that is plaguing the New Republic. and just all this uncertainty. And once you read Bloodline, you'll see what I mean. For those of you out there who have read Claudia Gray's Bloodline, this comic, this Poe Dameron series is really providing a lot of sort of context and structural support to what was written in Bloodline about the New Republic.
And so they decided that they're going to let Terex go, and the leader of the Kresh says, yes, we'll let him go, but he can't hurt us anymore. And I think he can't, and then I look, the Savior is born. It will carry us far from here to wherever our new life will begin. So the Dark One is there sitting like a gargoyle staring at them. And then they crawl up onto his back and fly away. I'm just confused.
That was weird. That was almost like, okay, so now we've got elements from Godzilla, from Pacific Rim, even this sort of weird sort of thing of almost like Godzilla versus Mothra, and now we've got the never-ending story going on.
Exactly, freaking Falcor, and it almost seems like they needed to get they needed some sort of conflict so that Poe could get the information but not get it easily. But is this really the route we needed to go? And now we're just done with these characters?
Yeah, it could have been a lot tighter. So I mean, but then again, these characters may be being held in reserve.
I hope not, because I really don't like them.
Maybe they show up. Maybe they show up in episode 8, the movie, and that little force lizard, giant flying wyvern, dragon, cocker spaniel thing actually, is frolicking in the waves around the islands where Luke is. So.
I hope not. I really hope not.
It turns out all those little stone huts we saw are actually those guys' houses.
So Poe and Terex part.
So it was like a mix of a Sound of Music and Heidi meets, The Empire Strikes Back.
It's a casserole of nonsense.
A little bit of Loch Ness.
So Poe and Terex.
I digress. I'm sorry.
So Poe and Terex. I'm just trying to get us through this, man. This book.
It's lugubrious.
Made me mad. Just made me mad.
So we just say, look, there you go.
There you go. So they part, and he says, looks like we're going to prison. So next month, I guess, we're going to get the continuation of this story, thankfully without the Kresh and without the whatever that creature was.
Yeah,
so
it'll be a little more of a streamlined story.
Yeah,
it just continues the story arc.
Yeah, this just left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, I liked probably as I'm rereading it, I liked about 2/3 of it, but man, the 1/3 that I didn't like just really, really went off the rails for me.
That's okay. That's fine.
But the art, the art. We didn't talk about the art. The artwork is great, other than it's a little confusing about where the other creature came from.
Well, it's Phil Noto. I mean, it's Phil Noto. Guy's an amazing artist.
He is.
So, and as much as convoluted as parts of the story were, all props to Charles Soule again. He's weaving a good story. I mean, it's a frustrating one right now, but look, we're still going to come back for the next installment.
Right. And again, the dialogue is great. I really enjoyed it, and I liked all the stuff between Poe and Terex. He writes the characters very well.
I hope
the scenario just didn't work.
I hope they're using him like for the script or at least some screenplay stuff, for the films. So
he should be writing all of Oscar Isaac's dialogue.
Agreed. Well, how about a happy book?
Let's talk about the one that I've been looking forward to since it was supposed to have been released a few weeks ago, and we thought we were going to talk about it. Han Solo #1.
It was worth the wait, I'll tell you that.
If only for the cover alone. I don't know why, but I freaking love this cover.
Which cover do you have?
I just have the digital copy. It's got the white on either corner and the swath going down with the Falcon flying at us with the ties chasing it. Han in his battle pose, Chewie behind him, and Leia's profile down below everything.
That is such a great cover. That is such a good cover. I've got the cover that was done by Michael Allred, and it shows Han, leaping and sort of being propelled in front of the Falcon with an explosion going on behind him. So.
This one, it's almost photorealistic, and I just really dig it. So I like that it opens up and we meet a Trandoshan. At first I was like, oh, is that Bosk? But it's not Bosk, because Bosk was trying to kill Han Solo.
I was a little excited because I thought the guy at the bar might actually be like, Constable Zuvio.
Oh, the guy in the hat, in the looking hat? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not Constable Zuvio, darn.
No. Can't have that.
But I love and I love that we see some creatures new, some creatures old, and and seen before. But the snaggletooth there, and of course, like you said, the Trandoshan, and that looks like a Rhodian in that big panel. In the foreground holding the cup.
I think it is. I think it is. He's just got kind of a mohawk.
He does. I bet Holly Fry is really excited about that one. So
probably so. And so we're hearing reading Han's thoughts as he's standing at the bar, and we find out that he hasn't been taking any jobs because nothing has felt right. And people are starting to talk, and they're starting to say, has he lost his nerve or things like that? And so this Trandoshan says, it's a good run, short and easy for a ship like yours. He's got a good run for him to make. And Han says, I don't like the sound of it, Control. I hear the Imperials have been probing that sector. And I like that we get a panel, the same panel with no dialogue whatsoever. And then the Trandoshan says, getting picky. That was never you, Han. Someone might think you've lost your nerve. Careful what you say next.
It's and it's perfect because he's saying, look, the deal's on the table, and then he warns him, look, you don't take any deals, your reputation is not going to hold up,
right?
And and that pauses, that leads us into sort of the where the dialogue of Han talking to himself, thinking to himself in his mind, and he's right. He's looking at this going, it's an easy run. Why can't I just say yes? And then of course he recognizes
someone,
what I think is the lead actress from the Warcraft movie,
right?
But I'd go, wait, I know that face. I saw her on that last planet I was at. That's not good at all, because if you see the same face on two worlds, the only thing to do is run.
Which is funny to me, because if you recall in Star Wars, he said, I prefer a fair fight to all this sneaking around.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is a pretty big character change there.
Han has changed.
Yeah, it has. The episodes of A New Hope changed him. His experience with the rebellion thus far, nascent though it may be, has changed him. So
we have a guy in some weird face contraption pulls a gun on him.
Mm-hmm. Usual old business thing, and he was right. That lady, is
she pulls a gun on him. Well, they find out they've been following him. He says, you've been following me for a while, haven't you? Last world, this one, why? She says, we're looking for the right man, for the right moment. And then she said, we finally realized it wasn't going to happen, so we took measures. Anyway, here we are. And so we find out that Chewie's been in cahoots with them. We've been following him. Which is very cool.
Yeah. And I love how, they come into where Chewie is. He's playing holo chess with an R5 unit.
Right. So. And I love that they show a picture of a hologram of Princess Leia, and she says, "If you've received this message, I need your help. Adame and Silentia will give you the details. It's vital you hear them out." And he says, "Help? Who does she think?" There's also a reward. I'm all ears. We want to use your ship. It was nice meeting you all.
I love you. I'm out of here.
And we're done.
And again, I think we should have Nathan Fillion playing Han Solo.
Yes.
so
absolutely.
And of course, we get the setup and the explanation, and what's going on and why, and how we got to help the rebellion, and so they finally talk him into it, and what they want to do is use his ship, but not him. Right, and of course, it's the package deal. You get the ship, you get Han,
which makes sense. I can't say that I blame him. He says, Her Highness has lost it. What makes her think I'd let anyone take my ship for any reason? And she says, because unlike you, our loyalties aren't conflicted. With the help of the rebellion, we help the rebellion when we can. We're trusted. In other words, we're loyal. And he brings up the fact that he came back to the Battle of Yavin, risked his life, blah, 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 blah. So we cut to, he lands the rebels convoy. And Leia shows up and just immediately starts giving him the business. And I love it. He goes off on her, and then she goes, "Are you done?"
Which is great. It's just that wonderful, very forceful, very direct, like, I don't have time to fool around with you, Leia. I mean, this is Leia in full rebellion combat mode.
Right.
She's not being short and terse to be difficult. She's, let's go.
We got stuff to do. And I love that he says, I told you I needed to take care of what I owe Jabba. And she goes, we've given you enough time. If you couldn't earn what you needed by now, you're not as good a smuggler as you say you are.
She knows how to, to press his buttons.
And he says, now you hold on. And she goes, there's more at stake than your hurt feelings. She just doesn't have time for it at all. And I love that we meet General Kraken here. He's from a cutscene from Return of the Jedi. They actually made a figure of him a few years ago when they did the Blu-ray releases.
Did they?
Yeah, they did a figure, great figure. It's one I've been looking for. I have one on the card. I want to try to find another one so I can open it, but I have never found one. But it's a really cool figure. He comes with this huge gun, and he was in the Millennium Falcon while Lando was flying it. But it was a scene that got cut, and we never got put back into the movies.
Was he in the he wasn't in the cockpit, was he?
I don't believe so. No, he wasn't. I think he may have been sitting in the back, but I think he was manning the guns.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, understood.
Kind of directing the crew.
Well, see, I had no idea. That's cool. That is so awesome, and what a great way to bring, one of the movie characters into the comics. One that has a resonant effect, but doesn't necessarily, again, proving it doesn't have to be like a main character or even a supporting role character.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
It's really cool, and I like that he does not have any time for Solo's nonsense either.
No.
I like that we're kind of getting to see Solo through a different set of eyes. We're seeing that he is kind of blustery and can be difficult, and we're seeing the scoundrel a little more.
Oh yes, but this whole comic is I don't even want to say it was illustrated. Is more along the lines of it was shot. Because I feel like I'm watching a movie.
And there's so many panels on the pages, but it doesn't feel busy.
No, it's got this superb flow.
Yes.
You look up and you've gone through 5 or 6 pages without even realizing it.
And
it still feels like you've been on one page.
Yeah, it's dialogue heavy, but they make it work, and you never feels like it's shortchanging the art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so Kraken and Leia are having a discussion about Han right in front of him, and then they explain to him what has happened. We've assembled a network of informants throughout the Imperial system, all of whom had only one objective. The odds were never good. Most of us had little hope for them, but last month we received a signal from the collective that the mission had been accomplished. And then one by one they started dying, murdered. Only 3 are still alive, and they have information that we very desperately need. That's why we require your ship. And I love that. These are real stakes.
Yes, this is not some sort of inanimate object that needs to be picked up and squired back to the ship or to the fleet.
These are people, and they don't have much time left. There's no guarantee that they're gonna survive. And I like that they don't trust him because they just know so little of him.
Right. Which shows that everyone has a learning curve. So what we, of course,
go ahead.
Well, they set up the wonderful, you fly in the Dragon Void run.
Yes, to hear Princess Leia say, one of the most dangerous race in the galaxy. That's my grammar Nazi alert came out. Nice proofreading, folks. Come on, seriously.
Oh, come on now, come on. One little thing.
Yeah, but you have one job. Anyway, I'm not going to hold it against the book. I'm loving everything so far. But it's not the Kessel Run. It is the Dragon Run, correct? That's the name of it.
The Dragon Void Run. And this is a nice little, not just a callback, but a throw forward, to Han Solo in Bloodline, being involved with the racing team. So
right, and at this point, when we figure out that he's gonna have to go on a race. I love that Leia gets to punch him.
Why do you love that?
Well, because she likes it. It's supposed to be just for show, but they do it so that people don't get suspicious because they don't want anybody to know because they are pretty sure they've got a leak within the rebellion. And so he says, if I just leave, that's going to raise some suspicions. She says, you leave all the time and no one cares. He goes, this time it's different. I'm on a mission. She says, so you want people to think you have a good reason to go? That's right. And so she punches him. And then starts yelling at him. You're not welcome here, you foul-mouthed, freeing fleecer. Get off the ship and don't ever come back. Gladly, they get on the ship, and he just looks at Chewie and goes, don't. And they take off. And from this point forward, I freaking love this book. It reminds me of the Han Solo adventures from the late 70s, early 80s that we got. Han Solo's Revenge. Yes, Han Solo's Revenge and Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. That's what it reminds me of because it's very pulpy and just an adventure, and it's fun. But he has some stakes.
Some very high stakes here.
And so he meets someone named Lou Ray Ano, who I'm guessing doesn't survive the story. Just going to call that right now. What do you think?
I think you're right.
And so, but I just love the colors, and I love all the people we're seeing. We see a Twi'lek, and we see a I can't remember the species of Grand Admiral Thrawn, but we see two of those together in one frame as they're mingling at the party.
Yes, which I thought was neat. And of course, that set a lot of people abuzz, going, "Oh, is that?" But there's no way that would be him at all. So
no, not at this. I don't think so. No, he would have been part of the Empire at this point.
Yeah, and I had an engaging Twitter discussion with somebody about it. They thought, "Oh, I wonder if that's supposed to be Ahsoka Tano." I'm like, no, there's more than one Togruta.
Right.
So,
and they don't all look alike, despite what you people may think. And it really doesn't look like her. So
no.
But I love that Han, is judging everybody. He says none of these pilots look like they've ever had engine grease on their hands. Why would I feel intimidated? I'm the best pilot here, and we got the fastest ship. And then, of course,
the Twi'lek pilots are like, what?
Yeah,
they're throwing shade at him.
And so this is basically like NASCAR, I guess, the NASCAR of the galaxy far, far away, because these are people that this is all they do. And of course, he meets the racer who is the whatever the Thrawn species. I can't remember.
Chiss? Is it Chiss?
Possibly. Somebody's yelling at their iPhone right now.
Yeah, definitely. We will have multiple answers on the Twitter feed for sure, and we thank you for that.
Right. But they try to have him thrown out, and of course he says he's a registered pilot. And the guy says, "Race against us? You must be a fool, smuggler. We're the best in the galaxy. We train only for this race. Our vessels are optimized with the latest technology. We have teams for each of our ship's systems. What have you got? A derelict ship? A Wookiee? Perhaps he has heart." And this is where we meet Lou Ray Ano, who is an old racer and has won, I think, right?
I believe so.
Is the defending champion. But she, of course, steps in and says, don't judge a book by its cover. And her reputation precedes her. Solo knows who she is when they tell her who she is.
Yeah.
And she's not dead now, but we're all taking bets this will be her last race. And so that's where I'm like, okay, I guess she is going to die.
Yes, but the question is, sacrificing herself to save Han or the rebellion, or murdered, or
I'm going to call it right now. She's one of the spies.
Ah.
I bet I'm wrong. It would be cool if I was right.
Well, I think you might be right.
Let's find out.
Yep. I think she is, and this is her first appearance. So, but here's the thing: I don't recall this species before, so I'm wondering if this is a new species being introduced as well.
It looks vaguely familiar, but again, I don't know what it is. So the race starts, and immediately when they come out of hyperspace, they're getting fired upon.
Kind of makes you long for the days of the Bantooine Classic.
No kidding, the Bunta Eve Classic, yeah.
Yeah, the Bunta Eve, just a couple of Tusken Raiders.
And he says, this is not supposed to be happening. Those ships are being attacked. They're part of the race. So I'm wondering if this is part of the race. Maybe this is one of the reasons it's so dangerous. And that's where we get the dreaded to be continued.
Of course. But I would be upset if we didn't. But I'm thinking you're right. I'm thinking perhaps this is like the first test.
I bet that's what we find out. I love this promising start to the series. It's very sort of action movie-ish and a bit pulpy. And it's just very fitting of Han Solo. The vibe of this is very Han Solo.
This one really captures the influence of, things like Doc Savage and Flash Gordon, as well as the old Westerns. And I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I couldn't put it down. I I sat there and read it like 3 or 4 times in a row.
Well, it's exactly what you want from a Han Solo adventure.
It is. It's great. And you're right. I think this is evocative of those late 70s, early 80s Han Solo novels,
which are a lot of fun. They're not great literature, but they're a lot of fun.
By Brian Daley, I think they are.
Yes.
Yeah. So
if only we had access to a world wide web of information.
Oh wait, I have one of those. It's not even in my phone. Yeah, Han
It is
Solo.
Brian Daly.
Yep, it's Han Solo's Revenge. I've got those original books.
I do too.
So
Got them in half-price books about 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh, so I got them when they came out. Well, I remember my mom buying them for me, and
Okay, so here's a sidetrack rabbit trail. I also wanted to get copies of the Lando Calrissian trilogy.
I've got that.
Well, I have Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of Sharu. There's only 2 more that I need to get. However, I can buy the collected edition cheaper than I could buy the 2 books separately. But I really want the 2 books, the 2 separate books.
No, just have them separate. Well, nothing wrong with that.
I know. It's just my inner cheapskate is very upset with me.
My inner cheapskate.
But yeah, so big recommend on the Han Solo book. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should. It's going to be a lot of fun. The next issue, the cover is very ominous. I don't really like the way they've drawn Han Solo's face. He looks less like Harrison Ford and more like
Anthony Perkins.
Yeah. It really does.
But it's a wonderful, it's an image that we're kind of used to him of, because somebody's been shot.
2 people have been shot apparently,
and it looks pretty clear he probably shot first. So who knows? This might this might fulminate a new debate on who shot first.
So that's it for Han Solo #1. I guess it sounds like you liked it as much as I did.
I loved it. I don't even say liked it. I loved this one. This was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I cannot wait to get the next issue next month.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those titles I'm going to be sad when it ends.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Absolutely. I think we need an ongoing Han Solo book personally, but that's just because he's my favorite character.
That'd be cool. I don't think it's going to happen, and I disagree. I don't think we should get one. I think all the main titular characters should only be emphasized in either the ongoing Star Wars monthly, or as in in the forms of miniseries.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and you're also entitled to be wrong. So.
Clearly, based on your observation, I have exercised my right to be wrong. So.
Yes, and that's great that you're right as an American.
Well, to paraphrase Steve Martin, well, excuse me.
Oh, man. So moving on to, we'll move on to the Force Awakens adaptation. This is issue 1. And it seems like, didn't we used to get these a little closer to the movie being in theaters? Didn't they used to come out while the film was in theaters?
Yes. No, not really. No. I mean, I think a lot of these may have, they may have started. I know, for example, in the case of Star Wars,
obviously that one, but The Empire Strikes Back.
I think they came out like a week or 2 after the movie came out.
Yeah, we're talking 6 months after the movie is coming out that we're getting this one.
Well, I think there were, it had to be done carefully. I get the feeling a lot of hands were involved in signing off on this one.
Probably.
And I'm sure there was a lot of sort of, maybe the comic book equivalent of reshoots.
Yeah, it's true.
But it was a woo.
Well, let me just say at the outset, I'm not particularly impressed with this adaptation. It was starting with the cover. I just don't. These don't look like the characters. That doesn't look like Finn in the background. That looks somewhat like Rey. But I don't know. It just doesn't work for me.
Okay. Again, you're entitled to your opinion.
I'm entitled to be wrong.
You're right.
It looks flat. Seems flat.
Well, and you have 32 pages to compress not even that. You can't even say that. You've got 32 pages to compress what is essentially, I guess, the first maybe fifth of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's the first maybe 25, 30 minutes. But we lose the first 10 to 15 minutes.
We should have said this in the beginning. If you haven't seen The Force Awakens, this will spoil it for you. So.
Why are you listening to this show?
I don't know why I'm having to say that. Actually, I don't have to say it, but I guess it's like a Pavlovian reaction now. This has a spoiler, so just in case. I think it's a shared cultural zeitgeist that all of us Star Wars fans share, and everyone listening to this podcast right now is silently either agreeing or literally physically nodding in agreement.
Right.
Going, why am I doing this? So, but yeah, no, it's it had its moments, but scripting something like this, and it's scripted by Chuck Wendig, so it's this is Chuck knows what he's doing.
He's got a good pedigree, yeah. That's why I'm a little bit let down by it, because the main thing is, first off, we lose the first scene where Poe is talking to Lor Santeca. We drop in.
We only meet Lor Santeca when he's dead.
And that would be fine if they used the space to add more to the story. I feel like comic book adaptations like this should show us things that we didn't get to see in the film. If for whatever reason they got edited out or just didn't fit into the flow of everything, much like we have with the novelizations. We get information that we didn't necessarily get in the films. Not anything that's necessary, but something that might just add to it. Do you agree with that, or am I off base?
I completely agree with you on that, because think about it. We see Finn's helmet with the bloody handprint, but there's no context,
right?
As to why this is a big deal.
It's almost like they just colored the storyboards and slapped them on a page.
Yeah, I think they are probably relying, or are approaching this with the viewpoint of, okay, the people who are reading this have seen the movie a lot,
which is all the more reason to give us more content, extra content.
That's true. That's a good point.
It just seems like a misstep. So we get dropped in the middle of the action. Poe is being interrogated by Kylo Ren, and we never heard Lor Santeca's name in the film, did we?
No.
I just knew it was Max von Sydow.
Yeah, no, we didn't hear him at all, or his name at all.
Right. So. And the way Poe Dameron is drawn, he looks old to me. He looks much older than he did than Oscar Isaac looked in the film. Is that just me, or?
That's just you. That's shady.
Okay.
There's flickering flames in the not too far off in the background. So.
Well, I mean, later on in the book, even especially later on in the book when he gets picked up by Finn, and maybe it's because he's been tortured, but for the most part, the artwork just seems a little unfinished to me.
All right,
it's not as sharp as what I'm used to and what I've come to expect from the Marvel Star Wars books. I'm thinking specifically about instances like on Digital Page 7, bottom left corner, the shot of all the stormtroopers. Just looks very hastily drawn.
Yeah, you're right. It does, because those front helmets they look mashed in, or like they look like they had their false teeth taken out.
Exactly. Except my grandmother when she didn't have her teeth in.
Well, there may have been some, and then there may have been some sort of reshoots, I think, on this one. Perhaps the pages decisions came down, going, no, that's got to go, or no, we don't need that, or so. Did
we know in the film that Ren's ship is called the Finalizer? I don't think I ever heard it called the Finalizer in the film, because I thought it was kind of a dumb name.
I think you're right. I don't recall hearing it in the movie.
Okay. Executor is one thing, the Devastator or whatever they've got, but the Finalizer just seems, it doesn't really strike fear into my heart.
It's wherever the dart lands on the dartboard.
I guess, yeah. I guess you're right.
And then we go in, boom, we're on Jakku, and we're introduced to Rey. That just one panel introduced. In the course of 9 panels, we basically encompass 4 or 5 minutes of film.
Right.
It's all, there's narration, or at least, sort of like a voiceover just twice, and then we have the, that, God, the guy's so gross. Unkar Plot. Gosh, he's just so gross.
And what a great name, too.
1/4 portion. So, and then boom, it's a I can't say repeat. That's the whole idea of the book. It's an adaptation of the movie. I will admit
it's not an adaptation. It's just a rehash.
Well, it's adapting the film. They've adapted it to a different medium. How about that?
I suppose. When I think of an adaptation, I think of somebody who takes it and puts their own stamp on it.
Man, you really didn't like it.
I did not. It feels very paint by numbers. I'm hoping that we get more in future issues, but this one, I don't see the point.
All right, that's fine.
Especially since people who are reading it obviously have seen the movie. It's been out for 6 months. They've seen the movie a lot. Give us a little more. Give us something more. And if you're just going to give us a paint by numbers, make it look a little better. And again, I'm not one to talk. I'm not one to talk because I can't draw to save my own life. But again, this just seems subpar. It seems rushed.
Okay, all right.
Really seems like it was rushed. The artwork and everything.
All right. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, they've got 4 more issues. Perhaps those were not as rushed as this one. I imagine the entire miniseries is already in the can.
One would hope.
So, and it's just a matter of running it out every month. But I mean, as adaptations go, it's a perfect way to re-experience the film. But like you said, there's nothing groundbreaking in it. There's nothing new. There's not really any new reveals or anything.
And in this day and age where we have the Blu-ray, the DVD, the digital copies at our fingertips, and we can watch them anytime, that makes it all the more incumbent on them to... is incumbent the right word?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Incumbent on them to give us a little more content, something that we didn't have in the film. Give us a reason for coming back to it next month. Because if I'm just going to read what I've already seen, and it's a well-made film, but it's not drawn as well as the film was shot, where's my incentive to come back?
That's true. I guess perhaps only the completists will come back to this one.
But, I just think a completist deserves better. Like I said, I'm not a fan.
I would like to point out that I am distressed by one clear missing point of this book,
which is
no Constable Zuvio.
Right. That's why they put him in the Han Solo book.
They do a fine. Well, it wasn't even in Han Solo, but they do a fine job of truncating the chase. But again, it's like you said, it's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's my age showing, or maybe it's the fact that I like you said, I can pull this up on Blu-ray and watch it whenever I want. But I remember back in the early '80s, reading the Empire Strikes Back and the Return of the Jedi adaptations, and being really stoked. But then again, that's because there was no other way for me to relive the movie unless I actually went to the movie theater.
Exactly. And if you go back and read those today, there are scenes in each one of those that didn't appear in the film.
Yeah, and it adds a lot of good context.
It really does. And it's nothing major, nothing that really changes any of the story, nothing that you need to know. It's just something that kind of enhances it and gives you a reason for going back to it.
And this one doesn't. You're exactly right on that one. So.
The only thing that I do like, and this is something, again, that they pulled from the movie, as far as I know, on digital page 26, one of the frames, they drew the Outrider into the frame. Dash Rendar's Outrider, or a ship that looks a lot like it.
Really?
Into the frame, where Finn is gulping the water with a big pig-looking guy.
Yeah, hold on. Scrolling over there right now. Wow, you're right. Look at that.
It's a ship the same model as the Outrider, and I seem to remember. I think maybe I'm thinking of the fact that they put it into A New Hope when they did the special edition.
Okay.
But I did like that. That was one little addition that I did like.
That's the thing with these comics is you have to really look at them because you just know that the story group is planting an Easter egg here and there, and again, like I said, it's probably, it has no meaning whatsoever, but it's just great fun. So I would have totally missed that one.
Like I said, I caught it because I was trying to find anything that was of interest that I hadn't already seen in the film. I read one.
Of course, Darth Revan fans are going to look at that panel above that. To the far left. I mean, it's a droid, but it's kind of got that Darth Revan-esque style.
Yeah, he does. You're right.
And the guy he's talking to looks very familiar. The droid is talking to. Unusually familiar.
Who does he look like to you?
I can't remember the guy's name. It's Oh, well.
Maybe he'll show up later.
We'll see. But
I was reading, after I read it, I read a review online. I was kind of formulating my opinion, and someone online that had read it said that it felt like they had just... Go ahead.
Sorry. It's not Mark Ross. Luke Ross is the artist.
Luke Ross.
Sorry. I was thinking of Mark. I had Mark Brooks in my name, in my brain. So.
And Mark Strong.
Yeah, and Mark Strong. So I will say this: I do like the way that the book flowed. That was some really good editing by Heather Antos. So this is Heather's. I think it's her first solo Star Wars book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and hopefully, I'm sure it's not going to be the last. So
no, and again, I got to the end quicker than I thought that I would. But again, I was reading someone commented online that said it felt like they spaced everything out so that the last page could be the reveal of the Millennium Falcon.
Which is an awesome thing to do. Again,
it is, but it's at the expense of things that we would like to see. I don't know. Apparently, maybe I'm being too hard on the book. I just was not impressed. I'll read the next one, but If I didn't have to review it for this show, I probably wouldn't bother. Otherwise,
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what issue 2 does.
hopefully issue 2 will give us a little bit more.
Well, it should be a lot of fun in terms of because we have the dogfight. So
Right. Like I said, feel free to defend as much as you need to. I just, like I said, it just feels very paint by numbers to me.
yeah, that's fine. Okay.
And if they're going to wait, do we know why there was a delay on it? Or was it delayed? Was it always meant to come out now?
I think I don't remember. I don't think. No, that's C-3PO. They got so horribly delayed. I don't recall. I think they just were wanting to guess I maybe go through the cycles with the movie. I mean, obviously they didn't want it to come out before the movie, given
Right.
how much they value the secrecy. So I guess once the movie went through the movie phase, it finally left the theaters. The Blu-ray had that initial splash of being released, and it's probably settled to the background. And this is a great way to sort of keep kind of bridge the gap between now and Rogue One. And then once that Rogue One is out, then they start building up the hype machine for Episode 8. So
I can't wait.
woo.
So we'll go from that to a book that I really did enjoy, and I'm sure you probably enjoyed it as much as I did because we both love these Obi-Wan shots, as I called them. Star Wars issue number 20. I love this dynamic cover of Obi-Wan fighting Black. I always just call him Black Chrysanthemum
Black Chrysanthemum.
because I can't ever remember his name.
My favorite thing is the credits page of these when they have the
Arabesh.
Obi-Wans. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, and you learn what Mike Mayhew's name looks like in Arabesh.
Yeah, it's just so much fun, and it just wow, guys, friends, it's Mike Mayhew art.
It's phenomenal.
It's just wow. Again, I hate to liken it to a movie, but reading this opening page is like. It's like Lawrence of Arabia.
It really is. It's almost Alex Ross level photorealism on that panel of the Weequay and the Barada. It really does look very Alex Rossish to me, which is the highest praise I can give anybody. I just love Alex Ross.
He's great. I can't. Black Chrysanthemum must be burning up.
Right, but look at those luxurious flowing locks.
It's a lot of
just came
conditioner.
straight from the beauty shop. But I like that we're getting the backstory because they're having to explain it to Black what's his name?
Black Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum. I'm just going to keep calling him Chrysanthemum because I can't ever remember. Black
That's cool.
Chrysanthemum. And he goes, is he even? And he says something. He says, roar, and one of them says, any idea what that means? And the Barada says, it means I sure wouldn't want to be whoever he gets his hands on out here. So he's located Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and of course Luke has run off like a brat. Seems to be the running theme in these stories. But man, again, it almost looks like we're seeing photographs.
It does, and I got to admit, it's so cool to see that speeder.
Yeah, the large family speeder.
Yeah, because I think it's in A New Hope.
It is.
The first, so I love it when they do that. And
3PO's hiding behind it.
then we go to this page, and gosh, Luke looks so cool. I mean, and you think for a page that is so whitewashed, because it's all sand and light colored clothing, it's stunning.
And they managed to make it dynamic. Yeah.
And just that perspective is great because you open up on the first third of the page and Luke is in the background, a speck literally, and then boom, middle, he's right there in a cutaway, and then he's kind of mid-sized in a cutaway that's on a cutaway, and then super close in on his eyes is another cut, and then bam,
he takes off because he feels he senses through the Force that something's going on back at home.
You're exactly right.
And is this the first time we've seen him really show any kind of Force sensitivity? I'm trying to remember if he did in the last issue.
Well, didn't he? Well, he probably showed. Well, clearly he shows some in the Phantom Menace, and whatnot.
That's not.
Oh no, wait, that's Anakin. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're right.
Have you ever seen Star Wars, Matt? It's a movie about. I'm kidding.
Sorry, it's hour 21 for me.
I understand.
But I don't know, God, it's seeing the way Mike Mayhew drew, a younger Luke.
It's exactly what Mark Hamill would have looked like at that age.
But it also really reminds me of those pictures of Anakin and the Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Where he's wearing the goggles and whatnot. So, hence the slip. No, you're right. I think this may be the first canonical instance of anybody seeing Luke. I don't want to say access the Force, but clearly he feels the Force.
Yeah, he's and I guess he probably did in the last issue when he saved Uncle Owen, the last Obi-Wan issue where he saved Uncle Owen. I got there just in time. I think that was probably the first time we saw him really use any kind of Force sensitivity.
True.
But I love the way Beru is drawn. It looks like it's a perfect combination between episode 2 and 3 Beru and the Beru that we saw in A New Hope.
I agree.
So that Beru's hair with the face of the younger Beru.
And I'm glad to see her packing heat.
Exactly, that was what I was going to say. I love that
she's been in a fight.
Yeah, she's not afraid to pick up a rifle and go after it. And so we cut to Black Chrysanthemum has Owen down, and I like this because it's kind of a callback to when the Tusken Raider has Luke down on his back.
Yeah.
In A New Hope.
Oh gosh, you're right. Yeah, look at that scene. I apologize, everyone. That's my bird Guinness. He also agrees. He likes the way it looks.
Oh, so. Awesome. His name is Guinness.
Yes, right. Yeah, he was found. He was turned into the SPCA in a Guinness beer box.
Oh wow!
So I figured, well, Guinness is a great name then. All right. So, but let's continue. Hopefully, I think he's going to quiet down.
Oh, it's not like Margot's never made an appearance on the show.
Oh, there's Buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody wants to get involved.
Daisy, do you have any comments on the way this page looks? Okay.
Love this page. So dynamic, and Owen's trying to get away from him, and he keeps zapping him with his pike. And I love at the very bottom of the page, Chrysanthemum looks more ape-like than anything.
He does look very ape-like.
I've never seen a Wookiee look like an ape, but he looks like something straight out of Planet of the Apes.
He does. It's it's like the gorilla general.
Yeah.
So, but we have Lars. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't understand you. And we have that little thing at the bottom of the page. He's not asking you any questions.
Yeah, I can't answer your questions. I don't speak. He's not asking you any questions. Yeah, and there's Obi-Wan. Why is he standing like that? Come on, guys.
that is a bit of an odd
it is, and it seems like it's out of character for him too. His legs are splayed a little too wide for that to be a really safe stance.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man, what's going on with you? So. And just Kenobi, and then we have this this inner dialogue. I was meditating among the banthas in the Dune Sea when I felt the disturbance in the Force. How hipsterish is this guy all of a sudden? Kidding. Oh, I was meditating among the banthas in the Dune Sea. It was all artisanal Force. Just like,
I love that he admits in his thought bubble, he says, atop the cliff, I tried to slow my breathing to hide how winded I was from the climb.
So it's our first sign, readily acknowledge, I'm not exactly tip-top fighting form anymore. So. Because it goes on, there was a tightness in my guts that I hadn't felt in years. Fear. But then it gets really profound by saying, apparently aches and pains of the body weren't the only things that worsened with age. And that's like, wow, okay. But then he knows him.
Right. How does he know who he is?
Well, he was well-traveled.
This is true.
Wookiees
he says he's heard of him. He hasn't ever met him, but he says he's heard of him, and that makes sense.
Well, and gosh, he knows just everything. Like you were forced to leave Kashyyyk, so.
And how you disgraced your people ever since. I like that he became a bounty hunter, and the Wookiees have sort of disowned him.
Yep. Well, he's not very Wookiee-esque. So.
And he tries to use his mind trick on him. He says, "You will leave this place," and he responds. Chrysanthemum responds by just braining him, basically.
And there's Lars, Ben, or Owen, Ben, and it just a sheer look of horror on his face.
But I like that he says, I was really hoping that was going to work. There's a little bit of humor there, a little bit of levity. And again, when he says he was out, among the banthas, what is this, Never Cry Bantha? That's a joke that maybe one person who's listening will get. The one movie Charles Martin Smith ever headlined.
Man, you went deep.
Yeah.
You're like in the rabbit hole.
Had to. Sorry, I had to.
Good Lord. So, he bites him. He bites Obi-Wan. You ever see a Wookiee bite something? I mean, What?
I love it. This guy is just savage.
He's a dirty fighter.
He is, and I love the look in Obi-Wan's eyes as he's got him in the chokehold.
Mm-hmm.
There's panic on there. That's some terrific art, some astounding art. Anytime an artist can capture emotion in someone's eyes, I'm always just amazed. I don't know how you do it.
And you can see it in those eyes.
The years had made me a fool, a very dead fool. And so he's holding him out. Chrysanthemum's holding him out over the cliff and throws him down.
And thankfully, because what? Wait a minute. You figured he'd throw him off the cliff, but he doesn't. But he nets him.
Right.
So I'm thinking he's probably. I'm thinking Chrysanthemum is just like, all right, wait a minute. Now I'm calling him Chrysanthemum too.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you. So, but it's pretty clear that he, there must be some sort of side contract out on Kenobi that's been out for a while.
Well, he's a Jedi. I'm sure the Empire has, any Jedi dead or alive.
That's true. Makes perfect sense.
And so Owen tries to save the day. Sorry, I hiccuped in the middle of my sentence. Promise I haven't been drinking. So Owen tries to save the day. He says, "You get away from," and just bounces off. He says, and then Kenobi tells him, "Run, it's me he wants. Run before he," and he says, "Owen Lars and I may have had our differences over the years, but the man was no coward. Tatooine did not abide cowards. It turned them into ash." And Chrysanthemum throws him over the edge.
Yeah, but clearly, once we, nice little reference there, please guide my hand, Master Qui-Gon. That sort of helps kind of, I guess, the equivalent of throwing a lot of sand into a Chrysanthemum. I'm just calling him Chrysanthemum from now on. Throws a lot of sand, rocks into Chrysanthemum's eyes. This gives Ben the chance to pull the lightsaber to himself. He gets out of the trap, and we see Owen is hanging on for dear life, but boom, back comes Chrysanthemum, the gorilla of Kashyyyk.
That rock is huge. That he
yes, and and again that pose. You're right. It's like watching Tarzan and the Apes.
And Kenobi slices right through it with his lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And gives Black Chrysanthemum a nice little scar.
Yeah.
Which is now we know why he's got that eye patch.
And I like up to this point, like Superman, Obi-Wan is using his powers when Owen can't see. But he finally has to use it because Owen starts to fall. Oh, you know what? I was, the reference I made earlier to Luke showing up just in time to save Owen in the last issue. It was at the end of this issue.
Okay.
Clearly, I need to stop reading these so far ahead of us recording. So, yes, this is the first time we've seen Luke be force sensitive.
Okay.
Oh, boy. And so Owen is hanging in midair, and he says, how am I not...
Yep, there we go.
And then Obi-Wan says, don't just float there, grab something. And then Chrysanthemum, hits him over the head, and then Owen can't reach. And at that point, he's falling, even while Chrysanthemum is beating Ben to pieces. Then Luke shows up, Deus Ex Machina, in the Skyhopper that he's magically fixed in the 5 minutes that he's been trying to find Uncle Owen. And he falls, but Luke saves the day. Although Owen would be pretty winded and probably have a big bruise on his hip after that.
I would imagine so. And such perfect timing and a perfect landing. He landed between the barrels.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, all right. Yeah, definitely Luke is tapping into the Force. There can be no doubt. So.
And Obi-Wan is saying, through my own weary flesh, through the people I could not keep from danger, through the man I could not save from falling, through the boy who would someday save us all. He's talking about feeling the Force flowing through everything.
Mm-hmm. So
Luke grabs him, and Obi-Wan says, next time I suggest not cutting it so close, and he turns around and just wails on Chrysanthemum, knocks him off, but apparently he's going to live because we see him getting on the ship later on.
We do. And then, it looks like, he, Ben did not cut his arm off. He hit him with him on the lights. He hit him with his lightsaber. But he didn't take his arm off.
And I was a little confused by that. The one point that I had a little bit of confusion by the art, but Luke jumps out and apologizes to Uncle Owen for working on the Skyhopper. I know I wasn't supposed to fix it anymore, but I just, and of course as Luke, get over here, and looks back at Kenobi and sees him standing there with his lightsaber. And I guess this is probably the point where Owen decided they really didn't need to have anything to do with Kenobi, because he knows now that did he know that he was a Jedi before? I guess he would have had to.
I think it was kind of a given. I think people just, he must have known.
Okay.
It's not, how else they wouldn't let a stranger come in,
Right.
I mean, you know what? No, they would, of course they would have had to have known, because,
he's the one who dropped him off. So
yeah, Ben brings Luke to Tatooine, and of course, it's not like he would show up and just randomly give him, to Owen and Beru. It's like, all right, look, this is the son of Anakin, your stepbrother. You are his only family. Okay, then yes, we'll raise him.
So we do find out that Chrysanthemum has lived. And Obi-Wan says, I tried to find the body, but I couldn't. I breathed him tough on Kashyyyk. But we see this great scar on his face as he's climbing onto the ship. And that's going to come back to haunt him later on.
It is, but it's also, because there's, previous images in some of the comics where we've seen him before, and he's got that massive scar across his eye now. If you'll notice at the beginning of this book, he did not.
And now we know where it came from.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
And Obi-Wan says, no word was spoken between Owen and I. I was just happy to see him safely return to his family, just as I returned to mine. He's out among the Banthas again. And he's talking to him. What's the matter, Dolo? Why so sad? Life carried on much as it always had in this harsh and rugged place where all could seem hopeless, but where sometimes, inexplicably, new hopes were forged.
Yes. And what a clever way to write that.
Yes.
Bravo to Jason Aaron for that. So.
I do like that. And he says, in blood and fire and sand and sky.
Yeah.
Walker. It didn't say Walker. I just added that to itself.
Just add Sky. That's awesome, though.
But I love this last shot of the Skyhopper flying off, toward the Twin Suns, and Luke just looking as thrilled as he could be, being able to fly a Skyhopper again.
Yes, indeed. Goodness gracious.
I love these one-shots. They fill out the Obi-Wan story and the years on Tatooine so nicely. And this is what I love from Star Wars books, is getting to see things that matter, see characters change, but also just getting a good story.
A good story, but we also get the chance to see how the root of certain things, how the seeds of certain ideas and characters were planted. And this, because it's something that we could never see on TV or in the cinema, but this is the wonderful medium for it, and it adds stuff to the saga. It's not there just to entertain us or just to take up space. It's actually adding value.
Agreed.
So
it's a lot of fun.
No doubt that I love this book. As I have maintained without fail, Mike Mayhew should be hired by Marvel at least once a quarter to do an Obi-Wan shot. And I, as they come out with the hardbound volumes and the omnibuy, these issues will be all together. But I do think they should probably take all of the Obi-Wan stories and put them into its own singular hardcover collected version. Once they're done. But I hope they keep coming out with these things, year in and year out.
So do I.
It's a nice little break, and it's so much fun. And friends, we receive no remuneration of any kind to do this or to do any reviews, but just Mike Mayhew's art is just flat out amazing.
It's astounding. It really is.
And you can tell with just every pen stroke and paintbrush, he is giving everything he's got for these stories. He is leaving a little bit of himself on every page, and it's amazing to behold, especially if you're reading it digitally, on a high definition large screen.
And if you're drawing Tatooine and you're making it look interesting, you're doing something right.
Yes, and then some. That's an understatement. That's the understatement of the year. So you're exactly right.
Okay, well, we will be back in a few moments with our interview that Matt set up for us. And
with Tom Akel.
Tom Akel. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors.
If you are a huge Star Wars fan, and let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, And if you love collecting Star Wars, the Star Wars Card Trader app from Topps is for you.
The best part, the Star Wars Card Trader app features incredible images from the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Force Awakens. Every era you love is included on the app.
It's easy and a lot of fun, too. Beloved characters, key scenes, and unforgettable moments are in every pack. Open the app every day and get free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and make new ones along the way as you continue to add to your Star Wars collection. And it's all free.
The variety makes it fun, too. So chase what you love. Some of the latest packs include poster series, classic comic book series, helmet variety packs, and so much more. There are even exclusive cards you can get by completing sets, as well as special inserts and even autograph opportunities. Don't worry about missing the cards you love either, as you sign up for notifications right on the app.
Well, thanks for joining us.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today.
The Star Wars Digital Card Trader app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
Oh, even better, head of content. There you go. So I stand corrected. And for Star Wars fans who should know this, Line Webtoon is publishing the very popular and very amazing South Korean take on Star Wars that really took a lot of people by storm, because initially it was only in Korean. And I remember at the time we did a story for Coffee with Kenobi, and they said that no, there was going to be no telling or no plans to translate it into English. And boy, I'm glad that they had a change of heart, because they brought it back. They brought it to the U.S. I think late last year in the fall, and goodness gracious, it's already run through the first trilogy, or through episodes 4, 5, and 6, and what an awesome telling that was. And I understand that you've got a little bit of love for Star Wars yourself. Do tell.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm 42 years old, so I grew up with it ever since I was a little kid, and in college was frequently made fun of as sort of the biggest Star Wars geek in school, and played the West End tabletop role-playing game every weekend, and have read all the novels and still have all the toys, and played all the games, and made my own Chewbacca costume where I'm 8 feet tall on stilts and have C-3PO broken up on my back and he talks and all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Me and my friends, when episode 1 came out, there was before the Star Wars Celebration was announced, there was a Star Wars convention in Plano, Texas, where we got to have dinner with Gary Kurtz and meet who was there? Kenny Baker was there, and Jeremy Bullock was there, and Peter Mayhew was there.
I was probably at that show, actually.
In Texas?
Yeah, I'm in the Dallas area, so I was probably at that same show.
Yeah, that was a great show. It came out opening weekend of episode 1. That show. Yep.
I had a friend who was cosplayed as Darth Maul. But he looked like baby Darth Maul because he was a little guy. But I digress.
I remember the winner of that costume contest was this guy who did a tauntaun. It was awesome.
Oh.
That's how you do it, because that's how you really make a statement and take a stand, is you really just go all in. So and someone who could do something like that, that's amazing. So, well, a lot has changed since that gathering, I would imagine. I mean, Star Wars is, it ran through that prequel trilogy, and now it's, we sort of had that long break between the films and went through the Clone Wars, and then at last we are back, I guess, in the next trilogy cycle, if you will, and now looking at basically a film a month, I wish, a film a year, thanks to Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, and of course, this is where we come into play, the return of comics to Marvel for gathering the Star Wars license and taking over from Dark Horse. What's it like for you, as someone whose appreciation for comics is well known, and whose love for Star Wars is clearly now going to be well known from far and wide, to be in this era of all these Star Wars comics?
So I'm going to say, embarrassingly, I have not read the Marvel ones yet. I know. I hear they're awesome, and I believe it. And the creative teams on those books are outstanding. But since those came out, I've been here and managing sort of the level of content and number of comics we have coming in, and number of scripts I have to read every day. I'm way behind on my outside comic book reading at the moment.
Dude, that's totally a first world problem, and I think I would kill to have that problem. So, what an awesome problem that is to have. Well, talk to us about Star Wars coming to Line Webtoon. Tell us about that, and what it was like for you guys to bring it to the U.S.
Well, the comic's finished. It's wrapped. It's 40 chapters. It's fantastic. I mean, when we first found out that this was going to happen, I would say, obviously we're all pretty excited because we didn't know necessarily that this would even be an opportunity. And to see something, to have, personally, obviously to have Star Wars on our platform was fantastic. We've only been, the app and the brand have only been in the U.S. We're just coming up on our 2-year anniversary in, I think, just around the 4th of July. I think July 2nd is our 2-year anniversary here since we launched. When we first launched, it was, primarily localized content from Korea. That was the existing big hits. And then, I've only been here since last April, and kind of as soon as I came in, it was like, oh, we're going to get Star Wars. And I had to, bite my tongue and not tell anyone about it for quite some time. So when we finally got the comic, it was, it's super exciting. It's, and the way that the comic is told from Luke's point of view, and kind of like new looks at scenes that we didn't get to see before, either from his youth or with Ben or throughout the trilogy, that, we've never had that POV. That was also really, something to kind of dork out about, that it wasn't simply just a, adaptation.
Yeah, which I thought that drew a lot of interest, given the fact that, Lucasfilm, the story group did concede, not concede, that's a poor choice of words, but said, yes, that, the storytelling that's taking place in this is canonical. So which I imagine makes it even more intriguing to readers, whether they're old and existing and new and kind of going, oh, this looks really cool.
Then I got the added bonus of accidentally meeting the creator in Korea in December.
Accidentally, how?
We had our year-end wrap-up and business planning and a year-end party for all of our creators in Korea, and the next day, I had a day before I was flying back to the States, was in an area of Korea, and I can't even tell you the name of it, but I would equate it to sort of like the West Village of New York, or, Santa Monica or Los Feliz of Los Angeles, kind of like the cool, hip, lots of little cafes and bars and restaurants area, and some cool museums and things. And as I was wandering down, literally lost, don't speak Korean, I can't read anything, just literally wandering around alone, walked by a building with a giant picture of our Star Wars comic on the side of the building. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I just walk inside, and the downstairs of what I think is probably a part-time sort of, unique toy shop, like maybe like a Kid Robot or something, is completely dressed in Star Wars with illustrations from the book blown up as paintings, and the creator is there with a line doing autographs. So I got online with everybody else and got my photo with him and introduced myself. And I wasn't sure if he kind of realized who I was. I gave him my card, which also is, he doesn't speak English, and the card's in Korean. So I think he read it afterwards and mailed me a Star Wars t-shirt back here at the office. But it was pretty wild.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I lined everybody a photo of me with him as soon as it happened, to kind of like, look who I found,
Oh man. Well, in terms of, let me rephrase that. Jeff, I think you wanted to ask something now.
I did. Well, no.
Well, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, well, I did. This has to do with the canonicity of everything. When that came about, are you now looped into the Star Wars story group so that you're not putting anything out there that they can't work around, or that you're not putting something out there that is in direct conflict with anything that they're writing?
Well, the process was we worked with Jen Hiddle with the Lucasfilm Story Group, and the process was basically, every script went back up to them. They approved it. When we did the translations, it was pretty seamless. We have translation companies who work on all of our content, so we had a translation service. Literally just translate the Korean, went over it, made sure that the grammar was correct and the copy was fairly accurate, and then Lucasfilm Story Group would go over it, give any final notes, and then we'd publish it. So it was a pretty fast and seamless process, and they were really easy to work with.
Well, let me say you really need to check out the Obi-Wan Kenobi one-shots and the Marvel Star Wars main title, because starting to read the first issue, or the first chapter rather, very reminiscent of some of the stories they're telling in that series of one-shots.
I am super excited and dying to jump into those. You know, I was a huge fan of everything that Dark Horse did. And, you know, I have all those collected editions at home. And then as soon as, you know, Marvel started doing them, you know, I at first when I heard, I'm sure like everybody, Dark Horse wasn't going to be doing it anymore. I was disappointed because they've done such high quality work over the years. But, you know, I've heard nothing but just absolutely amazing things about the new books.
Well, I think you'll especially enjoy the stuff especially those Obi-Wan one-shots and the Star Wars Monthly. You know, they're drawn by Mike Mayhew and they're written by Jason Aaron. And I got to tell you, you know, when I was reading the first one and then the second one that just came out last month, all I could think of, you know, I was drawing myself back, you know, to the adventures of you know that were appearing on LINE Webtoon, because it was almost like they complemented each other so well. It was like hand in glove, if you will, to steal a Smith's lyric. So it's kind of cool and very intriguing to see that they were running on completely different yet parallel tracks, you know, with no involvement with each other, and it just kind of shows to my mind the power that is Obi-Wan Kenobi and the mystery and the desire that people have to find out more of what transpired while Luke was a boy and Kenobi was, you know, serving sort of as a, you know, an unseen sentinel over his safety during all those years. So, but of course, LINE is not just about Star Wars. You guys have some amazing stuff on there, and you know, I forgive me for going to brag camp here, but you know, I am really partial to Dense myself, and for those of you out there listening, it's Dense, DENTS, not DENSE, which is usually me on most any given day. And then of course, I love the Strange Tales of Oscar Zahn, and you know, it's a non-Star Wars, but I got to put the plug out there for it. You know, it's a wonderfully evocative and atmospheric webtoon. And you know, one thing I think, Tom, some people might be a little bit confused. You know, why is it a webtoon and not a comic or a web comic?
Well, Webtoon's the name of our brand. I mean, it's also, you know, Webtoon's the name of our brand, and it is also a format. We do call them comics, though, when we talk about them at all now. We were sort of bouncing back and forth in between the use of the term webtoon as a noun, and have kind of shifted away from that just because of the reason you just asked, where it could be a little bit confusing to say, like, we're webtoon and this is a webtoon. So now we're webtoon and these are comics, and, you know, we're basically calling them digital comics. I mean, I think the difference between what people traditionally think of as digital comics, and you know, no one can see this because we're on a podcast, is that ours are all in this vertical scrolling format, right? So, you know, and 80% of our traffic is mobile. So for the most part, you're thinking about, you know, comics on your phone that you're holding up and looking at and scrolling down as you read, you know, using one finger. And I think that's kind of like the biggest difference when people think of what we do versus what else is out there.
And we'll definitely have links to the Star Wars comic on online, as well as you know, a couple of the titles I had mentioned, so that you listeners out there who have yet to experience this can go directly to it and revel in the wondrousness of it. So, but you've got also more titles on there. Tell me more about that. I mean, how, you know, what, you know, in your capacity, I mean, do you get to pick and choose and sort of kind of say, well, you know, my personal preference is this, or I think readers would really enjoy this, and you know, how do you go through the process of deciding what to put on there?
Well, there's essentially three ways we bring content in. The first is if something's already a massive hit overseas, we localize it because we know it'll find an audience here, which the same way any of the print manga that you see does. The other two ways, which is where you find something like, you know, Oscar Zahn and Dense are both great examples of those, is Oscar Zahn came out of Discover, which is a UGC area of the app. And I'm glad you mentioned Oscar Zahn because I absolutely love that comic. As soon as we found it in Discover, you know, I advocated for that one. Like, this is something we absolutely have to publish. The creator is up in Canada. He's part of Raid Studio, which I'm not familiar with, but there's a lot of great Marvel and DC artists out of that studio. And what we do is we go through Discover, which anyone who wants can upload their comics to Discover. It's a completely open, free platform.
Oh, that's great.
And we go through it, and once a month we pick anywhere from 1 to sometimes 3 or 4 comics that we really like, that have got a following or we just think are really high quality and will resonate. And we move them to what we call featured area, which is the main published area, which is where you probably found it because it's up there in the main marquee. The other way that we decide on comics is we'll take pitches from established creators and professionals. So that's a combination of just using our history of contacts and, combing artist alleys sometimes and looking at something and finding out that, this is a really good fit for us. We really like it. And then we bring it back and discuss it internally as a group. So, and then how we pick something is, is it the kind of quality that, we feel like we want to associate our brand to, which I'm sure every publisher has that kind of same benchmark. We do look at will this work in a vertical scroll format? Will it work for a younger audience? Because we are targeted a little bit more in that sort of high school, college age audience than we are the typical older, the way you usually picture a comic book reader these days, like someone who physically goes into the stores and picks them up and, has been reading Image for 20 years, which, it's me, but, our audience is younger than me. And then, aside from those things, is it fitting, does it fit a demographic that we feel like is an audience that we're reaching and will be successful with? So, and I guess there's kind of an in-between bucket there for something like Siren's Lament, which is one of our huge hits from the U.S. The creator, she's down in San Diego. She had a comic in Discover that we moved to featured. That was such a huge hit that we asked her to basically, what else do you have? Please pitch us something. So when we do find creators from Discover, once they have that kind of first hit, if they wrap it up, we'll just ask them to basically openly pitch at that point.
So once you get the door, it's not just a matter of getting your foot in the door, knocking on the door. I mean, you can obviously if somebody can knock on the door and, yeah, how are you? And then if more and more people are coming to see who's at the door, then they can come in the door, as it were. It almost seems like it's a very democratized way of getting it seems to me it gives people a real chance to have what they labor to do out of love seen by a wider audience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and we have scale. We've announced that we have over 10 million daily active readers. So as soon as people, come into the app, they know that they're going to find an audience here, of at least thousands of readers.
Well, that's great, and clearly it's very popular. I mean, just on the Android store alone, you've got just the app itself has 10 million downloads. So there's clearly a demand for this, and clearly an audience for it, like you said. So
yeah.
So now you've also got it's not just with Line. You've got some experience within the industry as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well? I mean, we don't want to plumb too deep into your personal history, but clearly, we did some research on you. You know what you're doing.
What do you mean? You read my LinkedIn?
Oh yes, definitely. You gotta love LinkedIn. So, I mean, I'm intrigued to find out, particularly with Freak Sugar. I thought was really cool, and then of course, Heroverse sounds pretty intense as well.
Yeah, that's been a labor of love for a long, long time. I started that. I want to say when the internet started, I bought the URL and had changed that over from like every young person who wants to create comics someday, you have a bunch of stuff in notebooks that you kicked around throughout high school and had several ideas for, and that sort of evolved into what Heroverse is now on the website, which will eventually be comics that you'll see. There was a few years back, we published Anywhere. So that was the first Heroverse comic that came out as a graphic novel in I'm going to blank on the year. I want to say 2006, 2007. That, when that wrapped up, Stan Lee was kind enough to write the forward for. And that's the last time I've actually published Heroverse stuff, was that one graphic novel. But there'll be more to come in the future. Freak Sugar was kind of born out of a bunch of friends who had formerly worked on MTV Geek, had all been messaging together over Facebook and wanted to do something new. So that's kind of where that sort of came out of. And a lot of the old crew from that site moved over to Freak Sugar.
Cool. I mean, it's good. It's good that you're staying involved and at least nurturing, not just what you're doing for Line, but on your side, your side stuff as well. So, well, in regard to Line and Star Wars, and given the fact we tend to focus on the Star Wars comics, is there any inkling of perhaps there being more Star Wars oriented content online? I realize that with the story group operating the way it does and all the films being made, there is of course a much protected layer of secrecy. But given the demand, do you think it would be safe to say that that a case could be made for more adaptations, provided that some are being done, or even perhaps being done in Korean?
We're not working on anything at the moment, but that's not to say that we never will. I think we're really, really happy with it, and I think that everyone involved was really happy with it. We still have a broader overall relationship with Disney. And in Line Messenger, you can buy Star Wars stickers and all the Disney stuff and the some stuff. So we value Lucasfilm and Disney as a partner, and if that opportunity comes up again, and I know this is a very corporate answer, we'd be thrilled to discuss it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that kind of answer at all whatsoever. Well, Tom, I got to ask you. Tom, I got to ask you. We've asked you some questions, a fair amount of questions, I think. Is there anything that we should be asking you that we haven't, or is there something that we should be mentioning that we've yet to bring up?
What should I plug? We'll be at San Diego. We'll have a panel there that'll be announced soon, and that panel will focus on Discover. There'll be some of our creators there. We do have one very exciting announcement for that panel that we can't talk about yet. But something specifically for Discover creators that we've been working on for quite some time. Beyond that, I think we have, again, I am the biggest person imaginable right now with this stuff because I have to be careful what I say. We have lots of great announcements coming up. I mean, I think the stuff that's live, we tend not to announce things until they're very, very close to being live because, we're a digital company and we want to, make sure when we talk about something, people can just kind of jump right into it. So we tend not to do too much long lead on anything that we're working on. We'll be doing a lot of conventions this year. I've been at a lot of conventions. If people are like, if you're tabling at a con and I happen to be there, there's probably a chance I swung by your booth and bought your book, because we're always looking for new talent. And that's, I think that's something for anybody who listens who's an aspiring comic creator or a professional comic creator is that we are always looking for new content. In the app itself, I would say, if you were going to ask me what to tell people to check out, you named two of them right away with Oscar Zahn and Dents, which are certainly two of my favorites. For a Star Wars audience, those are probably good ones because the themes the other ones that are coming up again, I can't talk about.
That's okay. I understand.
Tower of God, I think is Tower of God and God of High School, and Helper probably are others that might appeal to that same Star Wars audience in terms of like a little bit of sci-fi, fantasy, action. Certainly, and Cyberforce, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, was one of the Image launch titles.
I am totally familiar with Cyberforce.
So right now we're running a full year of Cyberforce exclusively online webtoon. That is a continuation of the storyline that started when they just did the reboot, that Kickstarter reboot a couple years ago. And they did, I think, 2 graphic novels worth of content then, and this follows that. So, and this is the only place you can get that story, and that's running every week. Does a new chapter go up today? A new chapter goes up tonight at midnight Eastern time.
Excellent. And I guess we should note that it's correct to say that for the people who are going to be visiting Line for the first time, that new chapters, if you will, go up usually every week. Or I know in the case of Star Wars, they went up I think every Sunday and Thursday every week. So.
Yeah, generally new chapters of content go up weekly, and then there's certainly a few exceptions where things go up a little more frequently than that. With Star Wars, we were lucky because it was already banked, so the translation was a little quicker. And there are some webcomic style titles that come out more than once a week. But generally, the longer form narrative work comes out weekly, just because there's so much work that goes into it.
Okay, excellent.
Well, Tom, we have, as part of the Coffee with Kenobi family, we have 5 questions that we ask of every guest that ever comes on the show. I don't think you agreed to this ahead of time, so surprise. But I will start, and Matt and I will just kind of trade off on asking you these questions. They're very easy. I don't think you'll have to do a whole lot of thinking, maybe on a couple of them, but we'll find out. first one should be fairly simple, but some people do agonize over it. What is your favorite Star Wars movie?
A New Hope.
No agony there. New Hope.
No agony, New Hope. And I know Empire is more people's favorite, but A New Hope. Without doubt.
Is that because it's sort of a self-contained story, or just do you just like the vibe of it better?
I think it was just sort of the vibe of it. I mean, I know it was just kind of, I enjoyed the pacing of it. And I think, going back and watching it over and over and over again, is sort of like there are no other Star Wars films paced that way. And there are very few action or sci-fi films where like you really kind of take directors and producers take their time with. And I just felt like, A New Hope was so well done in that respect, where like, you just get to know Luke and you get to feel for that character, and there's such a buildup by the time he gets off of Tatooine, that I don't know, for some reason that resonated more for me than the other films. I like them all, of course, but
It's interesting that you mentioned the pace of it, because I have a good friend. I have another podcast called Bantha Banter, which you can find on marvindogmedia.com, plug, where I interview people about Star Wars. And I had a friend who was seeing them for the first time, and she said that she felt like A New Hope felt a lot more like a 70s movie, and she started to feel the influence of the 80s as soon as The Empire Strikes Back. So I think maybe the fact that it was made in the mid to late 70s has a lot to do with the pace of it. It does feel more like a movie from that era. So, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, also, it was probably harder for them to do the effects that they wanted to do at that time. So, relied a little bit more on storytelling.
I'd have to agree. Now, my question for you, who's your favorite character, Tom?
I'm going to give that I'm going to go with Chewbacca first, but a close tie with Obi-Wan.
Really? Why so?
I don't know. I just love Chewbacca. I love him enough to make a handmade 8-foot tall Wookiee costume out of him. I don't have a rational reason for it, for my love for Chewbacca.
You realize, of course, now you've got to send us a photograph of this so that we can add it to the blog posting.
I gotta dig it up. I have a couple good ones. I mean, you're talking a long time ago before digital cameras too, so I gotta find it. But it was late 90s.
Well, and
maybe the digital cameras, then I didn't have one. But I will try and find one. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi, always one of my favorites. I mean, there's a Dave Dorman painting of Obi-Wan that sort of is like my favorite representation of the character ever, which you guys are probably totally familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to keep plugging the Marvel series, but there was a terrific Chewbacca miniseries that you're going to love when you finally do get around to reading it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm happy about the EU retcon is that Chewbacca is not dead. So
yes. We're all extremely pleased about that. There was much rejoicing. So we know that A New Hope is your favorite film. Do you have a favorite line of dialogue or film moment from any of the films in the saga?
Ooh. No one's asked me that, nor have I thought. It's always like, what's your favorite vehicle? What's your favorite creature?
Well, this is Coffee with Kenobi. We like to be a little more cerebral. I almost said that with a straight face.
And different too. Well, you have to admit that's one of the things that sets us apart. We tend to look at these things through an entirely different lens and an entirely new way. I talk gooder.
I gotta go with Uta Guta Solo as my favorite line.
Oh, that's great.
Oh man, you need to drop the mic now and just exit the stage. That's the best answer ever.
I think that's really my favorite line.
That's great. All right. Well, I've got the next question, and oddly enough, I think this is a question that Jeff should have asked you, but it will fall upon my shoulders to do so. If you collect Star Wars stuff, which we think that you do based on what you were telling us earlier, what is your favorite collectible that you own?
Oh God. I want to say the favorite Star Wars. God, I got to think about it. But the favorite Star Wars thing that I own would be my original Boba Fett figure. Even though it's not a collectible, it's the one I had since I was a kid. God, what else could it be? I have so much Star Wars stuff.
It's like choosing your favorite child.
I had this one intention. All right, so I'm going to say it's the Boba Fett figure, but I'll tell you a quick story about, I had this intent when, again, I want to say late 90s before the before the new films, though, they had started to make these, I want to say, like 1.5-inch pewter Star Wars figures as a set. And you can buy them in a lot of malls and collectible shops. I don't know if you guys remember those.
I do. Yeah, they came in like a 4-pack, right?
I remember those as well.
And they were kind of hard to get, and I had started just by getting. I think I just got R2 and Chewbacca, and they had this not a hexagon, but a kind of extended hexagon shaped base. And for it, it was an ambitious thing that was never going to happen. I intended to buy a chess set worth of each of the, to build a chess set out of the Empire and the Rebel Alliance characters, and then build, lacquered bases to put the pewter characters on top of, and then I had a board design all figured out where it was going to be multi-layered with like a glass top and then outer space underneath it, like a few inches down with LEDs and things, and that would have been my favorite collectible. And I think years later, some company actually made something like that you can go buy, but now I'm not going to buy it because I wanted to make it myself. But that would have been my favorite collectible. But since that, I'm just going to go with the probably 99-cent Boba Fett figure I had as a kid.
And our final question is, this is one that might take a little bit. I don't think it'll take as much thought, actually, because I think you probably thought of this already because you seem like a very thoughtful individual. What particular messages or themes about the Star Wars saga resonate or speak to you?
Oh, that's hard, man.
Well, I hope you're paying attention because there's going to be a short quiz later.
What messages or themes? I guess redemption. I don't know. I mean, one of the things that I'm going to go with redemption, and that's going to have to do, not necessarily with like a real super personal reason, but I have a 4-year-old daughter, and we play Star Wars all the time. And she knows that she loves all the Princess Leia figures, and she has, from those 90 figures, I bought all of them and had opened them, and she's got this massive toy collection out of the gate, just sitting around that she gets to play with. So we play Star Wars a lot. We have our lightsaber battles. We had one yesterday. And she knows Princess Leia really well, and she's seen the films, and she watches Rebels, but she knows that Darth Vader is Princess Leia's father. But I think so she pretends she's Princess Leia, and she often pretends that I'm Darth Vader. But I think it's good for her to be able to think of Darth Vader as there's a good Darth Vader. So, when I tell her he's the bad guy, but in the end he realizes he's wrong and becomes the good guy, I like that, she's 4 and, going on 5 at the end of the year, that for a kid, that kind of message, can be sort of understood as like, people can make wrong decisions, but it doesn't make them necessarily a wholly bad person, and can kind of like come around and make the right decision and maybe be forgiven. And I think that's a nice message for kids.
That's a vital message in Star Wars, yeah.
That was really well said, too. I have to agree with you 100% on that.
Thanks.
I hadn't even really thought about it like that before. Wow. Wow, it's not often I get to say that was both edifying and entertaining. So. Yeah.
And then for Halloween this year, she's requesting that she's Princess Leia and I'm Darth Vader.
Excellent.
And that's going to be our Halloween costumes because I can't say no.
There you go. Well, that's it. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, guys.
For the people who are listening, where can they find you online and out in the world?
On Twitter, it's just /Tom Akel, TOMAKEL. And that said, I keep the Instagram and Facebook private because there's lots of kid stuff on it. I keep lots of photos of the kids for the family.
Right. Understand?
Twitter is my public-facing social media network.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, listen.
Oh, yeah. And on Webtoons, and on Webtoons.com. Don't forget.
Oh, yeah. There's that thing.
Right. That's what we're here for, right? Don't forget. Download the app. It's on iOS. It's on Android. It's on iPad. It's on mobile web. It's on desktop. Free comics all the time.
It's everywhere.
At your fingertips. Easy to use. Vertical scrolling, mobile optimized, comments every chapter.
Somebody read the marketing copy. Awesome. Tom, again, thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Cheers, mate.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, that was a lot of fun talking to Tom. Thank you again, Tom, for joining us, and thank you, Matt, for setting that up. Lots of good information there, and I can't wait to. I've only read a little bit of this Korean adaptation, but I'm really looking forward to diving in and seeing, because the first issue that I did read, there's already so much added to it. That's what I think an adaptation should be. You know, we were talking about with The Force Awakens that we didn't really get anything extra. This adaptation is kind of what I expect from a comic book adaptation.
That's a really good way of looking at it. That's a really good point. That's a really good way to link it too. You're exactly right. I do want to say big thanks to Nicole Pfeiffer. She helped arrange the interview, and she was, without her, there would have been no interview. So
outstanding.
So Nicole, thank you so much for your help. We do appreciate it so very much.
Thank you, Nicole. And so now we will wrap up the show, this epic length show, with issues 21 and 22 of Darth Vader. And man,
I don't want Darth Vader to end.
I don't want it to end, but if that means the end of 000, I'm kind of willing to make that sacrifice.
As am I. You're exactly right. So.
But I will say at the outset, issue 21, I freaking love this cover, and I mentioned it last time when we saw a preview of it. I love this sort of Old West saloon with the swinging doors, and you see 000 standing up and BT-8's light shining through the blinds, and there's Aphra sitting there. What is she looking at? Is she looking at something, or is it just a rag that she's been using?
I think it's just the rag she's been using.
She definitely looks very pensive and a little worried, but I love the detail in this thing. You've got a Reese figure, a character sitting behind her, and what looks like a probot on a single roller, carrying what looks like chicken over to a table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then whatever this is on the counter in front of Aphra.
That looks one of the pit droid tops.
Right. That's what I thought.
But no, you're right. It looks more like a probe droid top as well. So, no, you're right. It's a great cover. It's an awesome cover. It speaks volumes. So, question: why would Vader leave I think I asked this the last time. Would Vader really leave the retrieval of Aphra up to the droids? I think so, because he knows that the droids are reliable, and you have to remember he has this otherworldly link to machines, and he knows how to delegate authority. So, So the front cover is amazing. It tells a lot of story. It really sums up the issue. Really does. And so you're of the opinion that he would let the droids go after Aphra, and I buy that. He gives them the directive and everything. Well, he knows it's tenacious and. Vader's after Dr. Silo, so yeah, he is, and so we open up on the Executor. He's interrogating Professor Fleury. Is that how you would pronounce his name? Fleury. Yeah, it's one of those odd little intonations again. So he's really intimidating this guy and gets the information he wants, and then kills him anyway, which you have to kind of expect from Vader. Yes. So then, of course, Vader is, using his powers of persuasion, which is basically intimidation, to get the guy to admit, where is Dr. Silo now? You were colleagues, you were friends. I would never be a traitor. No, come on, you're a smart man. Don't think don't do this. Don't embarrass us both. He's in there. It's beneath you, really. So, and it's just, and then he does that, and what a splash page! Oh my gosh. The back of that Star Destroyer. I know, and the nebula in front of it, just those beautiful colors. Oh my goodness gracious. It is so amazing. And then I love that dialogue. It's exactly what I would expect from Darth Vader. Signal the Executor, thank Professor Fleury, and then execute him for fraternizing with a traitor. Wow. There will be no more running. That's what I'm like, wow, that's hardcore. This is the Darth Vader from mercy. Goodness gracious. This is why he was such a ruthless guy in The Empire Strikes Back. But then, of course, immediate change in scenery, immediate change in focus, and we're on the Cosmotanic Steppes in the Outer Rim, and it seems to have three suns. It looks that way, doesn't it? Goodness gracious, I guess a trinary system. Right. And Aphra's been drinking like a fish, and they call attention to it. Yes, indeed. And people clearly are aware that she's in trouble, and of course, Black Chrysanthemum is there, and the the droids. And again, just that dialogue again.
This is the one joke that 000 has here that's funny is this Twi'lek says, "I'll warn you, droids aren't too popular around here," and he says, "I dare say that they'll be considered considerably less popular by the time we're finished."
Which is a good line. It's a really good line.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's a man. I think I said a woman, but he's talking to a man, and he's asked if he's seen the woman. He says, "Maybe. You have anything to make it worthwhile?" He said, "Do you like being alive? Answering that will keep you in that blessed state."
That was a little over the top, I thought, but
it is.
Given his personality, not in the least surprising. Of course, and then of course, BT kills him.
Kill him anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing we've realized when it comes to Darth Vader or any of his minions. So you're gonna die.
And so they are planning to kill Aphra. If they have to, right?
Kill her dead. DEAD dead.
Wow.
Well, they're not messing around.
No, they're not.
Vader is tying up all the loose ends.
So she knows to surrender to stay alive. She knows that if she surrenders, they won't kill her. And so I like that she, she still is cunning and smart as ever. And she will not, she knows what to do to stay alive. And
no,
so,
she does. Yeah, there's just it's not. She knows what has to be done. It's she's on the line, and if she messes up, there's no room for error now.
And she says, "I didn't tell anyone anything." And 000 says, "Well done. I'm sure you'll find not telling anyone anything a far less demanding task when you've been safely disposed of, Master." So he's going to make jokes at her expense. And she says, "Wait, I'm your master. You take orders. You take my orders. Stand down now." And BT-8 just opens fire, and she says, "First rule," and he says, "First rule of protocol, droids," 000 does. "We have priority order from our other master. We must deal with our priority order before progressing to anything else." And that's important because it comes into play later on in the next issue. So she's hiding behind the counter, and she tells this guy behind the counter, who looks a lot like one of the characters from the Canon miniseries.
He does, doesn't he?
The same species, I assume.
I think it is. And no, wait, from Kanan?
Doesn't he not?
Which part?
To me, he looks like whatever his friend's name was that took him under his wing.
No. You don't think? No, to me, he looks like the. Remember the Jedi that died in Attack of the Clones?
Kit Fisto?
No. This one was a much taller Jedi, sort of in the background. I think he was on the balcony leading out to Count Dooku and Poggle, Poggle the Lesser and Newt Gunray, and he got hurled over the balcony onto the pit floor and died.
Vaguely. I kind of, at that point in the movie is when I finally start to kind of tune out, I'll be honest. Every time
that's what he looks like.
Okay, well, either way, we get a massive firefight here.
A big firefight.
A ton. And so she says that she surrenders. And she says, "Okay, what was the specific order?" And 000 says, "To bring you to the executor to await Master Vader, and failing that, silence you." She says, "Okay, so I surrender." And he says,
she's actually doing something nice here, though. She's realizing, okay, if I don't surrender, everyone is going to die. They're going to kill everybody and everything. So I'm impressed that she did that. I really am.
And then, of course, she sees Chrysanthemum and says, "Any chance I can bribe you into helping me?" And he responds, she goes, "Yeah, I didn't think so." So from there, we cut to Silo's flagship, and Silo has a bunch of escape plans, apparently.
He does, and I love the fact that his bridge sits over the brain of one of these whale creatures.
This thing is weird. This whole whale thing is weird. It's kind of freaking me out.
Well, think about it though. This is what Silo does. He melds machinery and he melds biologics with technology.
Machines, yeah.
So it's kind of weird. So.
But yeah, he has a ton of escape plans, and he just has them itemized, and I don't know how he keeps them straight, but we find out that Vader boarded Silo's ship before it went into hyperspace. He flew his TIE Advance onto the ship, and right before it went into hyperspace, he docked, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Not just docked, but I mean, it's almost like he
crashed
shot his way in.
That's right.
So, I mean, it looks like he clearly went right in under the armor, but it's weird.
So
I would just also like to say something as an unrelated aside. On the page where it begins, where it opens Silo's flagship, if you look at Silo on the side profile on the bottom, I swear that's like an inside nod to Brian Young. So, hey Brian, if you're listening, hey, just Silo reminded me of you from that vantage point.
Drew you into a comic. You're preserved for posterity.
Fun. I'm sorry. Again, I digress. So,
No.
Vader shows his ruthlessness and his tactical ability by getting aboard.
And so Silo and Voidgazer are on the bridge here, and he sends Voidgazer down to basically stare him down.
It's true because Moreid is on the bridge as well and says we have a problem. So and I love this to Voidgazer's reply. Vader will come through the labs. I'd like the opportunity to study a Sith Lord at close quarters. And so it's kind of cool that science is winning out in all of this, because Silo agrees wholeheartedly. So
I look forward to reading your report. And so we see that he's crash landed on something inside this whale, and he punches I love that when the hatch just pops off. He's apparently removed it with the Force and jumps out.
Yeah, leaps out, and it's so very interesting. And then he sees the portal, the entranceway into the inside of the whale, or maybe not so much the inside of the whale, but the inside of the superstructure that's grafted to the whale.
Right.
And immediately just starts going through, and boom, right there is Voidgazer.
Says, I'm afraid your journey ends here. And he says, I understood the twins' delusion, and Carbon was a soldier, but you're a scientist. Do you think you can stand against a Dark Lord of the Sith? And pause, and she goes, perhaps not, and just runs away.
Which I think is great.
It's awesome.
And then immediately, there's no need to. Not when science can face you. So, and then boom, you beat the cyber animate easily enough when implanted into a Trandoshan. And sharp-eyed readers will remember at the beginning of this, toward the just after this arc, there was a Trandoshan that Vader ripped apart.
Right.
Who was controlled with the cybernetics. So, but. Clearly, they've upped their game because we go to the final page of the issue. It's like, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah, he's got to fight an enhanced Rancor.
So,
and that's a great frame too, because that Rancor's face is just huge. It makes Vader look so small. And
you can see the minor little tucks to its eyes. Where technology has been implemented into its vision.
Exactly. So. And my notes say, oh, he's got to fight a Rancor. This should be good.
Yeah. Wow. So, great book. Great. It's Kieran Gillen is doing some really good stuff as we wind down toward the end.
Really is. So we move straight into, thankfully, we can move straight into issue 22. And
yes.
I'm not a fan of this cover just because Vader looks very small in it. Does he not?
He does.
Especially look at his leg that's peeking out.
It's also a very busy cover. There's a lot going on. It's Voidgazer and all of her little minions.
That's exactly what I call them, as our minions, yeah.
But it was kind of interesting because, they had some of the action figure variant covers, and I think one was of Silo, and there was one of Voidgazer as well. So I think, that's kind of neat. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, because they're done up like the old action figure packaging looked. So, but, and it brings us, to where we left off the last issue. I mean, Aphra's being brought aboard the Executor, excuse me. So,
and 000 says, if I can be so bold, Mr. Schaefer, I suspect you'll soon regret your decision to surrender. There are far worse fates. That death by blaster. Again, my grammar Nazi came into play, but I'm like, come on, we're on page 4, and we've already got a proofreading mistake. Instead of than death by blaster, it says that. I'm not going to get hung up on it. I'm just saying it's there.
No. All right. I wonder if they'll change it in the collected trade. I bet they will.
Make it a special edition.
Yeah.
And so he says, I'm sure that Master Vader has one in mind. BT8 says something. He says, yes, BT, if he hasn't. And if he hasn't, we certainly have suggestions. And he says, notice I didn't say you'd live to regret this. And she says, I did. He says, just making sure. I do tend to overuse subtext. It's terrible to miss the subtext. I hate 000. No subtlety at all. And just a one-track mind. He's just such a boring character. You just always know what he's going to say.
It is, and sometimes the dialogue is just a little over the top, like, This is Dr. Aphra. Lord Vader ordered us to bring her here. Keep her safely locked away for him. Come on, really?
Right.
Of course, you do. We can't forget that this is an AI, and the most advanced AI and the deadliest AI. There was a reason it was shut down and hidden away the way it was. So, so I can kind of see it, sort of having that cliche bad guy attitude.
I suppose, but
it is, it is overpowering. I think
we've gotten way too much 000 in this series. In my opinion,
they've just driven it too far into the ground, I fear. So, but I get that he's supposed to be like an old, like almost like a, like an old melodramatic villain. It just
twirling his mustache that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Stop it. So,
but then again, the
snidely whiplash of Star Wars. So.
One thing that I'm not getting tired of though is Dr. Aphra, and she says 000. I'm to be safely delivered to the executor, right? And he says that you are, Mr. Shafra, and nice and safely doomed. She says then your priority order to Vader is complete. New priority order: get me out of here. Love that.
Well, again, she's devious, but she doesn't ignore potential routes that other people weren't aware of, and that's because she understands droids.
Right.
She knows how they work. So.
And of course, 000 says how annoying. And from there we cut to, and this is the last we see of them this issue, and I really wanted more of them, so I'm hoping we get more in next issue.
I have a feeling we will. As we said, at the forefront, there's only 3 issues to go, so they got they got some loose ends that need tying up.
So we cut back to Vader fighting the Rancor, and Void Gazer is sending it battle plans or attacks. I guess it's attack programs, and it's interesting. Vader goes to she's trying different things, and Vader lops off two of his claws, and Void Gazer says neural dampeners holding no pain response. Activate adrenal stimulants, which of course is going to make it go nuts. And she's basically just using this as a way to test her handiwork. And so finally Vader says enough and goes to choke him, and it doesn't work. And so Void Gazer says plate reinforced thorax is maintaining integrity, excellent force choke protection, which tells me when he chokes someone, he's working from the outside in rather than the inside out. And I guess I always assumed that with the force he would reach inside.
See, I always thought otherwise. I thought he was literally choking somebody, just not physically doing it. Not like going in and blocking their windpipe, but literally crushing their neck.
Well, clearly you were right, but it does seem like something that could be overcome by the Force. Maybe not.
Well, it depends.
But Vader is impressed, and he says so.
And I love that we get to hear him say that. Impressive. Yeah.
And of course, she says, "Thank you, Lord Vader," and he slashes at the. I do have a little bit of trouble with the action in this issue. I'm having trouble knowing what's what and what I'm looking at because we've got the organic Rancor and the organic surroundings of the space whale. Mm-hmm, so it's kind of hard to tell what's what at some point. It looks like he slashes him across the belly.
Yeah, you're right. It is the belly.
But then in the next frame,
the first time I looked at it, I thought it might be the throat.
It could be either or.
But I think you're right because that looks like his belly right above his rear legs.
Right, and so in the next frame, Vader is right next to the door. Has he been pushed back or has he run back?
Again, I think maybe he was pushed back. He was kind of giving up ground as the Rancor was advancing.
All right, and so Void Gazer is explaining to him, is monologuing and explaining to him how it all works.
That was a dumb thing to do.
Exactly. Why would you do that? It's just the Rancor.
No, Mr. Vader, I expect you to die.
So she explains that she's got a direct bridge to his brain, and it allows a complete circumvention of any weakness. So Vader then decides, okay, what I've got to do here is stab him in the head to sever the link, and also his life. And I love the frame where you see the lightsaber going through his head because you see him in silhouette.
That's great. That's a great contrast too. That's amazing.
It works so well. And I feel bad for the poor Rancor. He's got he didn't have to be stabbed in the head.
Toulon is just she just kind of like what?
Yeah, he says you sever the link, and he says you understand much, Toulon Void Gazer, but not the Force.
And such, you can tell she's very much sciencey. I have no interest in your superstition. I trust in science, and I must confess, if I hadn't had the chance to test my work directly against you, I'd have been disappointed.
And she's walking out on her little minions as well, which is interesting.
Yes, she is.
So back on the bridge, Silo learns that Vader defeated the Rancor, and Moret tells him Toulon is engaging him herself. She better not kill him. And Silo says, I find that unlikely, Moret. But she should delay him sufficiently, ashamed to lose her, but her real work is complete. So he's sacrificing her.
Yeah, he sacrificed everybody. These are his creations, but he is, he's very detached. Completely. I mean, he's the one who should be a void.
Exactly.
And of course, they come out of hyperspace above the fleet, or at least above the Executor now. And he, it's very ominous because he's very much still strategizing, sitting and looking like Captain Kirk in his
right
chair. Oh my goodness!
When he says engage Void Gazer's protocols on the approach to the Executor and head to the escape pods, so they're basically self-destructing this poor whale.
Indeed, and then and we cut back to Toulon Void Gazer, still combating with Darth Vader, and she's kind of trying to sort of do a post-fight. A dissection of everything to figure out what worked and why what worked and what didn't work and why it didn't work, and she's talking aloud, which is, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right, exactly.
Be quiet, kill him.
Well, and in the meantime, he's very easily, handling the lasers that are being shot at him, but then he turns around and uses the Force on her minions to attack her.
Ah, okay.
And at first I thought, can he do that? And then I thought, of course, he can control inanimate objects. That's how he threw all those boxes at Luke on the Cloud City. So it makes perfect sense.
It does. And, he turns those things, her creations, onto her. So.
And of course she says, well played, but too late, I've already won.
And then says, what an interesting drop here, though. No,
right.
My legacy will continue, and to think. I have General Taggett to thank. When you were letting those criminals who stole that fortune escape, when Carbon pursued that rebel pilot, when the twins chased the Void Devils, do you know where Taggett placed me? Turn the page.
On the Executor, apparently.
Ooh, and then we cut to General Taga, on the bridge. So, and prime all batteries and fire at will. Our weapons are disabled.
Whoops. So Void Gazer disabled the Executor's weapons,
and then launched gas. So.
Right. Which
gassed everybody.
Right, and this Royal Guard tells the Emperor, we've been cut off from the rest of the ship. We're operating our own life support systems, but there's no way out. And we cut back to Void Gazer, and she says, in my defense, I did make the requested improvements to the Executor's firing array, but I must confess to adding some features of my own. In true Sith fashion, she did what was asked of her. She just did a little more. And she says, I am a martyr for science. And I love the shot of Vader with his head, with his, his boot up, and the lightsaber right at her neck.
It's nuts. It's crazy.
So he goes to the bridge.
Think he stabs her.
Yeah, he does. He does, absolutely. So then he goes to the bridge and finds that everybody's gone. They've all left in the escape pods. And so we figure out the whale that he's on is about to crash into the Executor. And it says collision course cannot be altered. No override is possible. And then we cut to Silo on an escape pod saying it's a shame to lose her. She was a fine vessel. She served me well. I will remember her fondly. I'm like, well, that's fine, well and good, but you're still killing everybody in sight who's been serving you.
Well, I don't really think there's anybody else in there.
Well, no, I just mean the whale itself. I'm talking about the whale itself.
I'm sure there's this crew in there as well. But yeah,
right.
Enough mourning, our new flagship away. And that was a great line, she'll be known as the weapon that ended Darth Vader, which we know not to be the case. But, enough mourning, our new flagship awaits.
So this brings me to my next question. Why end it with a cliffhanger indicating that Vader may be dead when we know he's not?
Well, no, I think they already know that. I think it's just people know he's going to survive, but I think the real cliffhanger here is who is the new flagship. Now that's going to be interesting. And of course,
I assumed the flagship was the Executor.
Well, I don't think
they were going to
so.
take it over.
Well, maybe. Well, it could be, I guess. Yeah, that's a possibility. It might look like it, at least, because if you look at the cover of the next issue, it looks like somebody's fighting on the bat.
Yeah, who is that with the yellow lightsaber?
Isn't that Morit?
Is it?
I would think so, because Morit survived.
Okay, possibly. I like that cover. It's very reminiscent of the Empire Strikes Back, that final battle.
Ooh, you're right. How about that?
On Bespin. And again, I like this issue. It's very interesting. I wanted more Aphra, and hopefully, like you said, next issue we'll get more of her.
I hope you do. And I really don't want Aphra to go away, even though Darth Vader is concluding. Hopefully, maybe we should get her like her own backup feature in the Star Wars Monthly. They could reduce the number of Star Wars pages from down to like 18 or something. So we get
or just add the other one and charge $1 more for the book.
Well, that's true. Definitely. But yeah,
of course,
there's always the option. There's always the option of the Marvel Infinity titles too. That would be awesome.
That would be very cool. What if Star Wars?
I don't know.
So, but yeah, great couple of issues. I really like the story. I'm going to be sad to see it go. I hope that we get more Aphra, but I hope that 000 dies an ignominious death,
melted into slag in the sun,
or sent to the spice mines of Kessel, or smashed into who knows what. Oh, I hate that guy.
Aye.
But as always, the art is phenomenal in these. I really enjoyed it, and this is one that I would suggest picking up if you have enjoyed the Vader book so far. These issues won't disappoint.
Yes. No, yeah, I exactly agree. I agree with you precisely on that one. So, and with that, we have finally come to the end of our journey this month. We've had so much to talk about. It seems like it's feast or famine with these books based on the release schedule. So we'll be back next month with all of the Star Wars comics that have been fit to print, and even some that maybe haven't been. That's true.
And of course, Awakens adaptation.
And of course, Celebration Star Wars Celebration Europe happens in July. So we will be keenly monitoring it, not just for all the other Star Wars news, but I'm going to keep an eye out for any sort of Star Wars comic news. Hopefully we'll get something there. Whether it's another monthly or maybe something else. We'll see. So, because Darth Vader's coming to an end in August, and that's going to leave us with just 2 monthly series at the moment. And I think they kind of like having that that three monthly series going at the same time. So
yeah, we'll wonder what we'll get in the place of it. So
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
So Matt, thank you again for joining me this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And thank you to our guests and
Tom Akel. Woohoo!
Thank you to the listeners for sticking with us through all of this, and
definitely do thank you very much for that. We're nothing without you,
and we'd love to hear your thoughts on all of these issues. So hit us up on Twitter, Comics with Kenobi, no I in with.
Correct.
And Matt is at Gorilla Scribe, and I'm at the Jeff McGee, spelled just like it sounds. And until next time, for Comics with Kenobi, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Comics with Kenobi's theme song is Mark Hamill Can Handle by Chris Cape. Check Chris out at chriscape.com and on SoundCloud, on Twitter at Chris Cape, and on Facebook.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
Don't want to see us running the galaxy. Don't want to see us running the galaxy. Don't want to see us running the galaxy. Don't want to see us running the galaxy.
If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars Digital Card Trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.